Chapter 23-28. Flying Immortal Corpses. The immortal corpses broke out of the calm immortal lake. Plop! Plop! Countless female immortal corpses broke out of the water like fish, dancing in the air. These female immortal corpses had agile figures, beautiful faces, and unmatched talent. Their skin was snow-white and gentle like jade. They had all the beauty that women in the world envied. However, they did not have any life. Immediately, immortal corpses filled the air above Immortal Burial Lake, swimming like mermaids. Sky Dome. Sky Dome. Sky Dome. Deep, hoarse voices continuously came from the depths of the lake. The scene before them shocked Xiao Chen, Yan Sangming, Qin Ming, and the other outstanding talents. Their minds went blank for a moment. These were once immortal corpses that everyone looked up to, inviolable immortals. The lake water splashed and fell like rain. Everyone was at a loss. Suddenly, the eyes of these female immortal corpses turned scarlet at the same time, exuding overwhelming killing chi. Whoosh! 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 Without giving Yan Sangming and the others time to react, the immortal corpses swam in the air like mermaids and attacked them. Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. The attacks of these immortal corpses were incredibly fast. In the blink of an eye, 3 immortal corpses charged at Xiao Chen. Their eyes were scarlet as they pounced over like wild beasts. Supreme Dragon Fist. Xiao Chen drove the 10,000 dragon's art in his body, and a king's dragon might spread out from his body. A blue dragon image appeared behind him as he raised his hand and punched. Boom! The dragon image flickered as Xiao Chen punched with the aura of a prime. The fist light exploded, and dragon might spread out. Xiao Chen directly knocked back the 3 immortal corpses. This was much simpler than he expected. Xiao Chen easily knocked back the immortal corpses with just one punch, which stunned him slightly. However, when he saw the immortal corpses flying over at an even more horrifying speed as if nothing had happened, his expression changed drastically. The Supreme Dragon Fist was the strongest offensive fist technique in the world. Furthermore, Xiao Chen drove it with the 10,000 Dragon's Art's 3rd layer, which carried the king's blue dragon might. Even a great perfection sovereign emperor would find this punch unbearable. However, these immortal corpses were not damaged at all. Naturally, Xiao Chen was shocked and raised his guard. Bang! Bang! Xiao Chen continuously sent out the Supreme Dragon Fist. The immortal corpses that surrounded him could not get close at all. Xiao Chen also discovered that the attacks of these immortal corpses were completely disorganized. Aside from his incredible speed, he did not know any celestial arts, martial techniques, or magic treasures. He could only rely on his physical body. But that was enough. Before he died, he already had an immortal spirit body. After becoming an immortal corpse, his physical body would only be even more terrifying. Ordinary attacks would not be able to severely injure these immortal corpses, much less kill them. At present, there seemed to be no danger, but as time went on, it would be disastrous. No one would be able to leave this place alive. Not a single one of them would be able to leave. An unsolvable situation. Evidently, the other outstanding talents had also predicted this outcome. Their expressions all changed drastically. Damn it, what's going on with these immortal corpses? Qin Ming used the Emperor Dragon Fist to fight. Although there were no major problems, he gradually found it somewhat taxing. According to the information left behind by the Bushan Palace, the corpses of the immortals were indeed buried under the lake. However, they were all antiques from the previous epoch. They could not be any more dead, so there was no danger at all. If the ethereal immortal palace appeared, at most, one would not be able to enter because one did not have the inheritance key. Xiao Chen had never said that he would encounter such a desperate situation. How troublesome. Ming Xian frowned heavily as he watched the wounds on the immortal corpses slowly recover from the Buddhist sect's secret technique. The Buddhist sect's secret technique had a strong counter to corpses like zombies and desolate slaves. However, it did not seem to be as effective this time. Is it because they are all immortal spirit bodies? As Ming Xian blocked the immortal corpse's attacks, he calmly analyzed the situation to see if he could find the immortal corpse's weaknesses. Yuan Zhen, who sat on the lotus platform, held up a light barrier shining with Buddhist light. The immortal corpses continuously attacked the light barrier. Ripples and cracks appeared on the light barrier. Although the cracks were small and unnoticeable, they would break sooner or later. Yuan Zhen considered retreating. In any case, he could not open the ethereal immortal palace, so he might as well leave. The wings of time were crucial to the change of epochs. Naturally, it would be best to obtain them. However, if no one could obtain them, it would not be unacceptable. Yuan Zhen looked up at the sky, where a black hole swallowed up the sun. That was the passageway formed by the 7 keys. However, when Yuan Zhen looked at the densely packed immortal corpses in the air, he shook his head helplessly. Yan Sangming, who was skilled in the Death Dao, originally felt happy. He wanted to use the Death Dao's mysteries to control these immortal corpses. If he succeeded, he would immediately be unrivaled in this place. He would no longer have to worry about a threat. However, when he tried, he discovered that the other party could swallow up his Death Dao. Even after Yan Sangming's Death Dao invaded the other party's soul, he was so frightened that he no longer dared to try. On the other hand, she showed a rather relaxed expression. The blood dragon in his sage cloak circled him, dancing up and down. Its dragon head roared ferociously, and its scarlet claws moved like lightning. There was practically no need for she to make a move. Scarlet shadows surrounded him, forming an impenetrable defense. Bang! Xiaoqian attacked again, sending 3 immortal corpses flying. However, a group of them immediately appeared. Even though Xiaoqian did his best to dodge, several immortal corpses still managed to strike his alloy dragon armor with their palms or claws. Whoosh! Xiaoqian took 3 steps back. The alloy dragon armor absorbed most of the force for him, so his physical body did not suffer much damage. However, when Xiaoqian saw the few clear scratches on the alloy dragon armor, he still sucked in a breath of cold air. Even spirit tools could not leave marks on the alloy dragon armor. Demon blood vulture, go and try swallowing one. Xiaoqian had already sensed the horror of this group of immortal corpses. He placed his right hand on the scabbard of the tyrant saber on his back. Master, I can't. This group of women have terrifying death spirit chi on them. I can't swallow them. The demon blood vulture's body trembled, revealing the fear in its heart. To think that even the demon blood vulture, which dares to swallow anything, is afraid. What exactly are the origins of this group of immortal corpses? Whoosh! Suddenly, Xiaoqian's entire body froze. His pores opened up as a terrifying gaze stared at him. The thing that Xiaoqian feared the most happened. The terrifying existence at the bottom of the lake, which kept shouting for the Sky Dome Immortal Lord, finally targeted Xiaoqian. All this while, Xiaoqian did not want to associate this voice with the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. Xiaoqian had just arrived at this strange place when the words, Immortal Burial Lake, came out of his mouth for no reason. This made him feel that something was wrong. Then, the group of immortal flying corpses cried out in unison. This deepened Xiaoqian's suspicions. He kept his guard up, hoping that it was just a coincidence. However, it looked like Xiaoqian was overthinking. The terrifying existence at the bottom of the lake came for him. The group of immortal flying corpses also appeared because of him. Oh no! Feeling that the monster at the bottom of the lake was about to attack, Xiaoqian let go and switched to his saber, preparing to take out Heavenly Slayer. However, before Xiaoqian could let go, the horrifying existence at the bottom of the lake pulled him down. With a splash, he dove into the bottom of the lake. Big brother! Xiao Sua's expression changed dramatically. He waved the Scarlet Blood War banner in his hand and sent it flying, sending the immortal corpses flying. Without even thinking, Xiao Sua prepared to jump down after Xiaoqian. I can't. Just as Xiao Sua was about to sink to the bottom of the lake, Hao Kai fished him up. Hao Kai demanded angrily, "Are you crazy? The surface of this immortal burial lake is the line of life and death. Life at the surface and death at the bottom. It does not matter if you are a sovereign emperor or a faux god. Even immortals cannot avoid it." But big brother, he got pulled down. Xiao Suo appeared somewhat flustered, his voice trembling as he spoke. The sudden change immediately attracted the attention of several people. To think that Xiao Chen slipped up and got pulled down to the bottom of the lake by the immortal corpses. This was too strange. Some of Xiao Chen's enemies were present. However, they did not feel happy in their hearts. Even they could hold on. Given Xiao Chen's strength, how did he get pulled down to the bottom of the lake? Dead? Qin Ming showed a stunned expression, feeling somewhat flabbergasted. They had heard of the legend of Immortal Burial Lake before. Life at the surface and death at the bottom. Life and death were separated by a thin line. Once one crossed that line, even an immortal would die. Strange. The more they thought about it, the stranger it became. Panic and fear stirred in their hearts. When people faced the unknown, they would always feel fear. However, the attacks of the immortal corpses did not stop because of Xiao Chen's strange sinking into the lake. The danger that this group faced had not been resolved yet. They might end up like Xiao Chen at any moment. Crack. Just as everyone felt worried, confused, and horrified, a melodious sound suddenly came from the ethereal immortal palace. Suddenly, a crisp sound came from the ethereal immortal palace. This sound was like the most beautiful music in the world. In an instant, everyone's gazes were attracted to him. They saw someone push open the doors of the ethereal immortal palace, which everyone had used countless means but could not open. We finally came out. Lin Feng, who was covered in wounds, showed a relaxed expression as he carried the half-dead Jiang He on his back and appeared at the ethereal immortal palace's doors. The scene of flying immortal corpses, which looked like 10,000 demons dancing around, stunned Lin Feng. The instant Lin Feng's hand touched Jiang He, he was transported to a dangerous land filled with ancient era's immortal birds and great desolate Aeon ferocious beasts. Lin Feng, who could barely handle the situation in the first place, had to take care of Jiang He. One could easily imagine how miserable he was. However, this dangerous land was like a maze. He could not find the exit. When Lin Feng finally found the exit after much difficulty, he saw the immortal corpses, Yan Sangming, and the other outstanding talents in sorry state surrounded. Despair involuntarily welled up in the depths of Lin Feng's heart. The doors are open. Before Lin Feng could react, the eyes of the people fighting the immortal corpses blazed with a frenzied flame. They instantly brought out their various Dao domains. Then, the group charged towards the ethereal immortal palace's entrance at an incredible speed without any regard for their lives. Chapter 23-29. At the entrance of the ethereal immortal palace, Lin Yun cursed and quickly dodged when he saw the crowd charging over. Whoosh! 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 Yuanzhen rode on his lotus platform, bathing in a Buddhist light as he led the charge in. Before entering, Yuanzhen glanced at Lin Feng. After hesitating for half a second, Yuanzhen directly charged in, ignoring Lin Feng. Indeed, Lin Feng and Jiang He suddenly appeared in the ethereal immortal palace and pushed open the doors while everyone was in despair. No matter how one looked at it, this was extremely strange. Naturally, it would be for the best if one could capture these two calmly. However, even if one delayed, it did not mean that others would be delayed. If one delayed, one would lose the initiative. One wrong step and lose everything. Following that, the Silver Dragon King, Wen Renyu, and the others charged into the ethereal immortal palace. Some glanced at Lin Feng, and some ignored him. The doors were already open. Nothing was more important than charging into the ethereal immortal palace. However, some people did not want to let Lin Feng and Jiang He off. Whoosh! Whoosh! Xi's group of three blocked Lin Feng and the unconscious Jiang He, showing malicious intent in their eyes. However, Xi attacked without saying a word. The scarlet dragon images circling around Xiao Chun roared ferociously at Lin Feng at lightning speed. The scarlet dragon image carried the horrifying demonic might of a dynasty as it charged over in Lin Feng's eyes. In Lin Feng's vision, this scarlet dragon image was vast and boundless, exuding an overwhelming aura. Lin Feng, who had already fought a bitter battle in the ethereal immortal palace, showed a troubled expression when he faced this attack. Even if he could receive it, he would definitely be severely injured. At that time, he would be captured. Naturally, the best choice was to give up on Jiang He and leave alone. Just as Lin Feng felt troubled, a figure shielded him and swung his sword without hesitation. Everlasting primal chaos. Chi. The scarlet dragon image clashed with the sword light and quickly sliced it in half. How strong! Lin Feng felt startled. The person in front of him actually broke the scarlet dragon image with one sword strike. Whoosh! The two halves of the scarlet dragon image returned to Shi's side and reformed. Don't be so ruthless. Chu Chaoyun said as he looked at Shi's group of three. She smiled faintly and said indifferently, don't you want to know how he entered the ethereal immortal palace? Chu Chaoyun said expressionlessly, I'm more concerned about whether you can catch up to the others if you continue to delay. Shi's expression suddenly turned gloomy when he finished speaking. If it weren't for Chu Chaoyun's interference, he wouldn't have needed to waste so much time. With his strength, it wouldn't have taken much effort at all. I let you escape last time, but you're getting bolder and bolder. Murderous intent accumulated in Shi's eyes, and his expression flickered, making him unfathomable. Although you are strong, I have never truly feared you. No one here understands you better than I do. Chu Chaoyun remained calm and collected. He did not show the slightest bit of fear in the face of the other party's threat. So. Right at this moment, two figures flew over. It was Xiao Sua and Hao Kai. Brother Chu, do you need help? Xiao Sua asked softly as she held the Scarlet Blood War banner and landed beside Chu Chaoyun. Let's go. Upon seeing Xiao Sua and Hao Kai arrive, she withdrew his aura and left decisively. As everyone watched the three leave, they heaved a sigh of relief. Shi's strength was too unfathomable. No one could lower their guard against him. Chu Chaoyun glanced at the many immortal corpses surrounding them. He frowned and said, let's go to the ethereal immortal palace first. These immortal corpses don't seem to dare to enter. We can't go in. The ancient immortal beasts and great desolate Aeon ferocious beasts are even more horrifying. When Lin Feng heard that they were about to enter the ethereal immortal palace again, he immediately recalled the horrifying experience from before. No matter how horrifying it is, it won't be as horrifying as this place. Let's go in first, Hao Kai said with lingering fear as he looked at the immortal corpses. Whoosh! The group ascended the ethereal immortal palace's entrance. Indeed, the immortal corpses that chased after them did not advance any further. I'm going in. Do you want to come with me? Chu Chaoyun asked as he looked at Xiao Sua and Hao Kai. He definitely had to fight for the wings of time and could not remain here. There's no need. Xiao Sua shook his head and said resolutely, we have to wait here for Brother Xiao Chen. Very well, you can stay here, then. However, I want to take this person away. Chu Chaoyun's gaze fell on Jiang He. His expression did not change, but his words shocked everyone. He wanted to take Jiang He away. You are indeed not a good person. Xiao Sua said with a cold gaze as his figure flashed, shielding Jiang He and Lin Feng. Chu Chaoyun had a deep gaze as he said after some thought, he is the crux of the wings of time. I have to take him away. However, I guarantee that I will not harm his life. Do you think that I will let you take him away? Xiao Sua showed a cold smile as he looked at Chu Chaoyun with murderous intent in his eyes. That is not up to you. Right after Xiao Sua spoke, Chu Chaoyun's figure turned blurry. The space where he was turned chaotic, making it impossible for anyone to catch him. Where is he? Hao Kai and Xiao Sua charged forward. However, they could not find Chu Chaoyun at all, greatly startling them. Whoosh! A beam of light flashed, and Chu Chaoyun carried the unconscious Jiang He as he dashed past the two. Damn it! After him! The three of them cursed and rushed forward. Chu Chaoyun, who moved with the wind, looked back at the cloud-like figure in front. A golden light flickered in Chu Chaoyun's eyes, and golden flames surged out, forming a sea of fire that blocked the three. It's the universe origin true flame. Hao Kai sucked in a breath of cold air. He stretched out his hands and blocked Xiao Suo and Lin Feng. Why are you stopping? That fellow is already far away. Xiao Suo raged. While he looked crude and rash as he walked on the sea, he had a forthright and righteous nature. In Xiao Suo's heart, righteousness always took precedence. He would never forget the kindness of others. Xiao Qian gave him everything he had. Without Xiao Qian, Xiao Suo would not have obtained the Scarlet Blood Pirate King's inheritance or reached his current height. That Xiao Qian was Xiao Suo's benefactor. Hence, Xiao Suo was willing to do anything for Xiao Qian without hesitation. Such a person hated betrayal the most. He could not even tolerate a sesame-sized stain. If Xiao Suo could, he would have killed Chu Chaoyun right now. He had come over to help Chu Chaoyun deal with Shi in vain. In the end, it turned out that this fellow was a liar, no different from Shi. Lin Feng's gaze turned grave as he looked at the blazing golden flame. Fear flashed in his eyes. This is the universe origin true flame that surpasses rank 9. It already comes in contact with the universe origin true flame's origin. If we charge over rashly, we will die a miserable death. Hao Kai said after some thought, unexpectedly, there is such a strong person hidden beside us. He is not much weaker than Shi. However, I have a way to deal with this flame. How? Fight fire with fire. Boom! A resplendent flame blazed around Hao Kai's body. The solar true flame blazed fiercely. Hao Kai wanted to use his solar true flame to burn away all of Chu Chaoyun's universe origin true flame. Although the other party's flame was stronger than Hao Kai's, Chu Chaoyun was already far away. If Hao Kai continued to use his soul energy to control the solar true flame, he would eventually be able to burn away the sea of fire before him. However, it would take some time. After shaking off Xiao Suo's group, Chu Chaoyun continued running without stopping. Everywhere Xiao Suo passed were the corpses of ancient immortal beasts and great desolate Aeon ferocious beasts. Yuan Zhen, the Silver Dragon King, and the others, who led the way, must have brought out all their trump cards. The dirty blood had dyed the beautiful jade-like palace walls and the ground bright red. However, the strange thing was that as the blood seeped into the jade, the glow of the palace walls and floor became even brighter. Chu Chaoyun did not go far before he stopped with a slight frown. Then, a person walked out from a corner in front, smiling at Chu Chaoyun. This was the Xuewu dynasty's Shi. A strange look flashed in Chu Chaoyun's eyes. After some thought, he said, "It looks like you guessed it as well. The so-called inheritance key is Jiang He himself." She smiled faintly and said, "I can only say that the previous generation Heaven Dragon's means are indeed brilliant. Normally, Jiang He is Jiang He. When the Heaven Dragon brings out his mysteries, he will activate the inheritance key hidden in his body, bringing out the ethereal immortal palace." "What are you trying to do?" Chu Chaoyun asked, not saying anything more. "Naturally, I am trying to extract the inheritance key from his body." "Don't you want to? You have a deep understanding of me. How can I not guess your background?" "Hee hee. Actually, I should have appeared at the banquet and waited for you to kill him to obtain the inheritance key." She narrowed his eyes slightly and smiled playfully. "There's no need to pretend. You and I are the same kind of person. It just so happens that the two of us can work together to break the previous generation Heaven Dragon's restrictions. After we obtain the inheritance key, we can fight for it with our strength." Chu Chaoyun showed a smile on his face, showing a mocking expression in his eyes. "I never thought of killing him. It looks like you do not understand me. Move aside." Chapter 23:30. It looks like you do not understand me. Get out of my way. Chu Chaoyun did not even consider Shi's suggestion, directly rejecting it. Are you sure? Shi's face sank as he said coldly, this time, I will not give you a chance to escape. Chu Chaoyun retorted indifferently, is that so? If the two of us fight at full power, whether you are willing or not, Jiang He will die for sure. If the previous generation Heaven Dragon dies before the restriction on him is broken, the inheritance key might be destroyed as a result. Are you sure? Given the two's strength, if they fought at full power, they would not be able to control it. He would definitely not be able to control it in the end, and it would definitely affect the unconscious Jiang He. The result went without saying. Are you threatening me? Shi's expression turned extremely sullen. Although he did not want to admit it, what Chu Chaoyun said was indeed very likely. Am I? I am just stating the truth. Or do you really think that we are the same kind of person? Chu Chaoyun revealed a faint smile as he looked at Shi calmly. Shi's gaze was deep. He discovered that he could not see through Chu Chaoyun, not knowing how to describe him. While Shi was said to value relationships, he was not like Xiao Chen, who would unconditionally protect the people important to him. If it were Xiao Chen, he would absolutely not use Jiang He's death to force Shi. While Xiao Chen placed his own interests above all else, he rejected working with Shi, a decision that would maximize his own benefits. Xiao Chen's words were filled with contradictions. Xiao Chen wanted to protect the persistence in his heart but had no choice but to compromise with reality. This was the best portrayal of Xiao Chen. With the epoch changing, such a person was the most pitiful. Living like you is really tiring. She revealed a pitiful expression as he said indifferently, I do not need to force you. Whether you are willing or not, time will slowly force you to make a choice. I just need to wait patiently. Right after she spoke, he turned illusory, slowly vanishing from Chu Chaoyun's sight. Chu Chaoyun's smile froze. Then, he revealed unprecedented grief, the helplessness of having his disguise seen through. The scene of Xiao Chen drawing his saber after learning the truth in Black Wind Ridge appeared in his mind again. That saber strike destroyed the sinister wind that lingered in Black Wind Ridge for 10,000 years, venting all the dissatisfaction in his heart. That saber strike displayed the determination in Xiao Chen's heart, even if he faced a change in fortuitous encounters. He would also draw his saber without hesitation. No matter how difficult it was, he would press forward and face it head-on. He would never retreat. Withdrawing his thoughts, Chu Chaoyun remained impassive as he continued forward with Jiang He on his back. There were ancient immortal birds and primordial beasts everywhere in the immortal palace. Yuan Zhen and the others, who were searching for the wings of time, did not have a smooth journey. They stumbled along the way. However, these people were either outstanding talents among outstanding talents, demonic geniuses, or peak great perfection sovereign emperors. No matter how strong the ancient immortal birds and primordial beasts were, they could not compare to the immortal corpses outside. The group of people advanced madly, each using their trump cards, continuously advancing into the depths of the immortal palace. Damn it! We can't catch up to him. After Xiao Sua, Lin Feng, and Hao Kai crossed the Sea of Fire, they could not see Chu Chaoyun at all. Lin Feng closed his eyes and did his best to recall something. After a while, he opened his eyes and said, I know where he is. Oh. Xiao Sua and Hao Kai revealed suspicious gazes as they looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said after some thought, it should be the great hall that Jiang He and I first appeared in. Now that I think about it, that should be the core region of the ethereal immortal palace. However, there were immortal birds and ferocious beasts everywhere at that time. I did not dare to linger, so I charged out with him. Xiao Sua thought for a while before saying, if you had not left back then, you might have obtained the wings of time already. I did not see the wings of time. At that time, I also did not expect this to be the ethereal immortal palace, Lin Feng answered honestly. At that time, he had been confused, not knowing how he got to this place. Hao Kai said after some thought, let's not talk about this for now. Bring us over. Follow me. Along the way, the ground was littered with the corpses of ancient immortal beasts and primordial beasts. The blood hadn't dried yet, and the air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. The speed of the three of them was not considered fast. On one hand, Lin Feng needed time to recall. On the other hand, he would occasionally encounter immortal birds and ferocious beasts. Fortunately, Xiao Sua and Hao Kai were around. One had inherited the Scarlet Blood Pirate King's indomitable will, and the other was a great perfection six-veined sovereign emperor. With the three of them working together, there were almost no immortal birds or ferocious beasts that they could not defeat. Just like that, they killed their way over. After an hour, Lin Feng pointed to the exit in front of them and said, "If I remember correctly, it should be the hall in front. Let's go and take a look." They passed through the passageway and entered the hall. In an instant, his eyes lit up. The spacious circular hall had a towering dome, and above the dome was a moving galaxy, sun, and moon. The sky was filled with dazzling stars. The floor of the hall was made of pure white immortal jade. It was seamless and emitted a dazzling light like white snow. Suddenly entering such a bright hall, Xiao Sua and the other two were not used to it. "This is the place," Lin Feng said softly as he sized up the hall. Although Lin Feng had been here once before, he had not been able to stay for long before the immortal birds and ferocious beasts surging over from all directions scared him into fleeing. Now that he was here again, he could not help looking around curiously. A vast star chart hung above the core hall. Stars flickered, and the sun and moon shone together, illuminating the entire hall, making it look dreamy. When one entered, one's emotions, physical body, and soul naturally turned ethereal, feeling somewhat unreal. An even more dazzling five-colored divine stone was placed on a stone pillar in the center of the hall. Red, orange, yellow, green, and blue flickered with light, changing endlessly. The interior of the five-colored divine sense was an azure liquid that looked like ripples from space-time fluctuations. Xiao Sua immediately said, "It turns out that the space-time fluctuations we sensed in the outside world came from this five-colored divine sense. Could it be that the wings of time are sealed in there?" Hao Kai showed a grave expression as he thought of a possibility. "That's very possible," Xiao Sua said softly, narrowing his eyes slightly. Lin Feng scanned his surroundings and discovered that there were many passageways in the hall. It wouldn't be long before the others arrived. There were immortal birds and ferocious beasts in the ethereal immortal palace as well as maze-like winding corridors. If not for Lin Feng having been here once before, he could not have arrived before the others. However, he would not have been much faster. What should we do now? To think that Chu Chaoyun is not here. Xiao Sua glanced at the five-colored divine stone and ignored it. He felt somewhat depressed that he could not find Chu Chaoyun. Let's wait first. Since he is here for the wings of time, he will definitely come. Someone is coming. Hao Kai, who was speaking, frowned slightly. The three quickly raised their guard and retreated to the edge of the hall. Whoosh! A Buddhist light flooded the dreamy hall. It was Yuan Zhen, who had rushed in first, flying in while seated on a lotus platform. Upon closer inspection, Yuan Zhen's lotus platform was stained with blood. Clearly, Yuan Zhen had killed many people along the way before finally reaching this step. The wings of time. The instant Yuan Zhen looked at the five-colored divine stone, he immediately sensed the space-time ripples in it. His expression changed slightly. Yuan Zhen immediately concluded that the wings of time were sealed in the five-colored divine stone. Dong! 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 Just as Yuan Zhen was about to make a move, the Silver Dragon King, Qin Ming, and Sikong Shu rushed in from another passageway, covered in blood. Qin Ming's gaze fell on the five-colored divine stone, and a frenzied flame immediately blazed in his eyes. The wings of time. I finally found it. After so much effort, I finally found it. Qin Ming revealed boundless joy on his face. When he glanced around and saw Yuan Zhen, heavy murderous intent appeared in his eyes. Humph! On the lotus platform, Yuan Zhen showed a disdainful smile, his eyes filled with mockery. Before the two sides could fight, Wen Renyu and Dao Yan, Yan Sangming and Zhen Yuan, Shi, Ming Xian, and Yang Qing all came out from different passageways. Looking around, nearly all the holders of the ethereal immortal palace keys had charged over with their companions. This was the final place where the wings of time were hidden. Murderous intent gathered in Xiao Sua's eyes as he looked around. However, he did not see Chu Chaoyun's figure. Damn it! Where is this ungrateful fellow hiding? However, Qin Ming, Wen Renyu, and the others showed cautious gazes as they watched the others. At a crucial moment, they might get killed by the others if they were not careful. The wings of time were right before them. Everyone wanted to obtain them. However, there was only one wings of time in the end. No matter who wanted to monopolize it, they would face a situation where everyone would attack them. No one dared to act rashly. The atmosphere slowly turned strange. At some point in time, Qin Ming's group slowly closed the distance between Wen Renyu and Dao Yan. Yan Sangming, Zhen Yuan, and she slowly moved closer. Everyone could foresee that a battle of life and death would soon break out. Before life and death, it was human instinct to stick together. Everyone had a tacit understanding. The two sides happened to be the righteous Tao and demonic Tao. The Buddhist sects Yuanjin remained neutral, not leaning on anyone. On the other hand, Xiao Sua's group of three was ignored. They had an inseparable connection to Xiao Chen. Clearly, neither the righteous Tao nor the demonic Tao could tolerate Xiao Chen's existence, which implicated Xiao Sua's group of three. Yuanzhen, the hidden spirit temple, has always been a righteous Tao sect. Are you trying to take advantage of the situation by not siding with us? Qin Ming asked coldly as he looked at Yuanzhen on the lotus platform. As Qin Ming spoke, Shi and Yan Sangming also looked at Yuanzhen. Clearly, neither the righteous Tao nor the demonic Tao would allow a strong existence to watch from the sidelines. If Yuanzhen still did not express his stance, the righteous Tao and demonic Tao might work together to finish him off, not giving him a chance to take advantage of the situation. Facing Qin Ming's overbearing attitude, Yuanzhen said indifferently, "Buddha is not Buddha, demon is not demon. This humble monk does not want to get involved in the karma of your two factions." The moment Yuanzhen said that, the righteous Tao and demonic Tao glared at each other. Whoosh! However, just as the righteous Tao and demonic Tao prepared to work together to finish off Yuanzhen, the five-colored divine stone on the stone pillar suddenly soared into the air. When everyone looked up, they saw a person descend from the starry sky. Jiang He's eyes were tightly shut as he faced the ground. His chest gave off a complicated light as he slowly descended. There seemed to be some kind of restriction in Jiang He's body. As the light spread out, it slowly dissolved. One descended from the sky, and the other soared into the air. Jiang He slowly approached the five-colored divine stone. Everyone showed some confusion on their faces. Only she showed a cold smile. He had long expected that Chu Chaoyun would undo the restriction left by the previous generation Heaven Dragon at the crucial moment. Whether Chu Chaoyun was willing or not, he had to make a decision. It was not up to him. Chapter 23:31. In the starry sky above, Jiang He descended with his eyes closed. The restriction on his chest slowly unraveled. The five-colored divine stone on the stone pillar below seemed to sense it. It soared into the air and slowly merged with Jiang He. If nothing unexpected happened, this five-colored divine stone would soon merge with Jiang He. No one knew what would happen after the merger. Perhaps the five-colored divine stone's seal would be undone. Perhaps the five-colored divine stone would merge with Jiang He and obtain the wings of time. Perhaps Jiang He would die, and the five-element spiritual sense would explode, and the wings of time would appear. Everything was possible, but it was also possible that none of it would happen. A faint smile appeared on Shi's face as he quietly watched the two slowly approach, not moving at all. Yan Sangming and Zhen Yuan, who stood beside Shi, showed grave expressions. Damn it! What is this Shi thinking? Even now, they are not doing anything. Wouldn't everything be over if Jiang He managed to get his hands on the wings of time? Yan Sangming sent a voice projection to Zhen Yuan, showing the anxiety and conflict in his heart. Zhen Yuan's expression was equally unsightly. He replied, "This fellow must know something that we do not. We cannot let Jiang He merge with the five-element divine stone. Otherwise, we will be too passive." Yan Sangming entered deep thought. Then, he turned his head and said, "Lord Shi, this situation is somewhat strange. Are we just going to watch the five-element divine stone merge with Jiang He?" She smiled faintly and said, "Yan Sangming, do you want to make a move? I have no objections. This is indeed somewhat strange. It would be good for you to test it out." Seeing Shi's smile, Yan Sangming felt that this person was unfathomable in the depths of his heart. Yan Sangming cursed Shi countless times in his heart. However, Yan Sangming had no choice. He could not be as calm as Shi, watching the five-element divine stone merge with Jiang He. If Jiang He really gained control of the wings of time, Yan Sangming, as the hope of the flood dragon race, would not be able to accept such a result. Damn it! Yan Sangming roared as he clenched his teeth. Then, he soared into the air and attacked Jiang He. On the other side, another figure leaped up at nearly the same time as Yan Sangming. It was Qin Ming, the dragon god crown prince Qin Ming. Like Yan Sangming, Qin Ming could not accept that a heaven dragon's descendant grasped the wings of time. If that really happened, he would feel even worse than Yan Sangming. No matter how strange the situation in front of him was, or if someone was secretly plotting something. But the two of them had no choice. Even if they knew they were trapped, they had no choice but to jump in. Xiao. One was a golden divine dragon, and the other was a flood dragon human that had fallen from a mixed-blood dragon. Their gazes clashed in midair. Both of them could see the deep-seated hatred and disgust in each other's eyes, but both of them had the same goal and attacked Jiang He at the same time. Touch of Death. 9 Heavens Dragon. The two each executed a killing move. A black flame burned on Yan Sangming's body. The flame seemed to be alive, flowing like water. When driven by Yan Sangming's Death Dao domain, it was like the Grim Reaper swinging his scythe to harvest life mercilessly at Jiang He. Qin Ming executed the Emperor Dragon Fist to its limits. He clenched his fist and merged with the Golden Emperor Dragon. Boom! The two's killer moves manifested a terrifying momentum that was swift and decisive. Almost before anyone could react, they landed on Jiang He's body at the same time, erupting a shockwave that was a mixture of black and yellow. Shockwaves emanated from Jiang He's body, but something weird happened. Jiang He was unscathed. Not only that, but the restriction on Jiang He's chest seemed to dissolve even faster. Damn it! How can it be like this? Yan Sangming and Qin Ming revealed horrified expressions. Even great perfection sovereign emperors could not endure their killing moves. However, Jiang He seemed fine, only stopping Yan Sangming's descent. "If you want to kill Jiang He, you have to ask for our permission first." Xiao Sua and Hao Kai reacted, but they did not have time to think. They soared into the air and guarded Jiang He, one on the left and one on the right, staring at Qin Ming and Jiang He. "You are seeking death." Qin Ming and Yan Sangming were enraged, not hiding the murderous intent on their faces at all. The four immediately started a chaotic battle in the air. Under the illumination of the resplendent light, it was incredibly intense. Whoosh! When Lin Feng saw the situation, he wanted to take advantage of the chaos to carry Jiang He away. However, Zhen Yuan blocked him with his saber. Damn it! The two immediately started fighting, turning the battle in the air even more chaotic. Whoosh! Without any warning, the five-colored divine stone below flashed with light and headed for Yuan Zhen, who was on the lotus platform. To think that Yuan Zhen wanted to take advantage of the chaos to take away the five-colored divine stone. Damn Baldy! Stay here. Wenren Yu and Dao Yan surrounded Yuan Zhen. Shi's expression changed slightly. After some thought, he said, "Attack." We absolutely cannot let Yuan Zhen bring the five-colored divine stone out of this place. Ming Xian and Yang Qing's figures flashed as they worked with Wenren Yu and Dao Yan to surround Yuan Zhen. The core region of the ethereal immortal palace immediately turned chaotic. The various factions fought each other in a chaotic mess. Amid the chaotic battle, all the attacks that landed on Jiang He's body made the restriction on his heart melt even faster. When she saw this, a smile widened on his face. He looked meaningfully at the starry sky in the sky. The Silver Dragon King and Sikong Shu, who were staring at Shi, felt that something was wrong. However, they did not know what was wrong. At the same time, at the bottom of Immortal Burial Lake, the instant Shao Chen was pulled into the lake, he found himself unable to move. He could not circulate his divine energy or soul energy. He could only watch as his life force slowly flowed away at the bottom of the lake. Life and death hung by a thread. Life on the surface, death below. A chill invaded Shao Chen's entire body, making him feel like death was slowly approaching. However, he remained calm in the depths of his heart, not showing any fear of death. Slowly, all the light in the lake vanished. Only darkness remained at the bottom of the lake, cold and silent. Boundless loneliness and desolation surged like the tide, stirring restlessly in Shao Chen's heart. Shao Chen felt somewhat confused. He did not know where this boundless loneliness that lasted for tens of thousands of years came from. After some time, when this loneliness filled Shao Chen's heart, a beam of light suddenly appeared before Shao Chen's eyes. Suddenly, a ray of light appeared in front of him, and he saw a beautiful figure. She was so beautiful that she could topple cities with a single glance. She was so beautiful that she could topple cities with a single glance. She was swimming toward him quickly. How fast! However, Shao Chen's first reaction was not that she was beautiful but that she was very fast. The beautiful figure moved like light, arriving before Shao Chen in the blink of an eye and cupping his face. She gently kissed him. This kiss penetrated his heart. Then, the beautiful figure entered his soul pool in the blink of an eye. This was clearly his soul pool. However, Shao Chen felt like he had become a bystander. That beautiful figure floated into his soul pool. Her red lips parted as she muttered, "Sky Dome, Sky Dome, Sky Dome." The voice of the Sky Dome reverberated continuously in his soul pool, causing Shao Chen's soul energy to surge like waves. She showed an anxious expression, a flustered look in her eyes. She seemed to be searching for something as she continuously ran through the vast and boundless soul pool. Shao Chen felt shocked, somewhat surprised that his soul pool was actually so vast. There were many remote places that his mind had never been to. As the beautiful figure ran, Shao Chen saw many things that he had never seen before. This broadened his horizons. What is she searching for? Could there be a secret that even I do not know hidden in my soul pool? Shao Chen felt curious. He had seen his previous life in the three-life mirror. He knew that he was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's reincarnation. However, he did not know much about the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. He only knew that although the Sky Dome Immortal Lord was an Immortal Lord, he was much stronger than Shao Chen's ancestor, the top Immortal Lord of the Immortal Epoch. That is. Suddenly, huge waves stirred in Shao Chen's heart. To think that there was a grave in the boundless depths of his soul pool. When the beautiful figure saw the grave, she could no longer suppress her emotions. She fell to the ground and caressed the wordless stone steel, tears flowing endlessly. Without a doubt, this beautiful figure was definitely the Immortal Epoch's Shi Wangmu. However, why was she crying endlessly before this grave? Many doubts appeared in Shao Chen's heart. Many questions lingered in his heart. Shao Chen thought back to the scene he saw in the three-life mirror, the meeting between the Sky Dome Immortal Lord and the Qing Emperor before his death. This filled him with doubts and fear. Who was buried in this grave? Chapter 2332. However, just as Shao Chen prepared to stand up and fight again, he suddenly discovered that Shi Wangmu, who was standing on the grave mound, was looking at the sky with some despair. You must have many questions and questions in your heart. Just ask. Back then, when he created this immortal burial lake for me, he said that he would appear before me one day. He left this remnant soul of mine to wait for you to appear. It was easy to change a person's appearance. However, it was hard to duplicate a person's aura. Xiaochen revealed a self-mocking smile. Then, he said helplessly, if everything in life is fixed and arranged, I would just be someone else's shadow. What is the point of knowing these questions and secrets? There is no point, there is really no point. Xiaochen slammed his palm on the ground and leaped up like a fish. Then, he looked at Shi Wangmu, who was on the grave mound. The scene that Xiaochen saw in the three-life mirror had already explained everything. From the moment he swallowed that immortal pill, he was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord, the reincarnation of the Blue Dragon bloodline. In the end, he still had to face the Sky Dome Immortal Lord head-on. However, his mental state was extraordinary. Normally, he could maintain a good balance. Or rather, he had already merged with the Sky Dome Immortal Lord perfectly. Shi Wangmu's expression changed slightly. How much suffering and responsibility did this youth before her endure in his short life? The two fought endlessly. Shi Wangmu used her supreme immortal skills to fight against Xiaochen's demonified cultivation technique and martial technique. Shi Wangmu, who was in front of the stone stele, stood up and spoke softly. He once said that he would come. However, what she saw was only a grave. What appeared before her was his reincarnation. You repulsive woman. Scram. I am not some dog's hit Sky Dome Immortal Lord. I am Xiaochen. I will never be someone else's pawn in my life. Shock flashed on Shi Wangmu's face. Then, Xiaochen knocked her back and sent her flying. The demonified Xiaochen on the ground slowly regained his clarity, and the overwhelming demonic flame on his body slowly faded away. I don't want to ask. I don't want to know anything. Please leave my soul pool and send me out of Immortal Burial Lake. I, Xiaochen, still have friends. I do not know if they are alive or dead. I am very worried about them. With a blood-curdling screech, the demonized Xiaochen was severely injured. It was as if he didn't want to hurt him, afraid that he would accidentally kill him. He was a celestial and demonic being, cultivating both immortal and martial arts. Deep in his heart, there had always been a terrifying demonic intent. You have 1,000, 10,000 reasons to become a demon, but you can't become a demon because of him. If you do, I will really look down on you. You must remember, you can be firmament, but firmament will never be Xiaochen. You have all the possibilities. He is just a pitiful person that no one can protect. Without these, what would he, Xiaochen, be? He was nothing, not even a fart. Demonic thoughts filled his heart, expanding Xiaochen's negative emotions infinitely. Shi Wangmu revealed a mocking expression as she said indifferently, he could not even protect himself, turning into a wasteland with only a lone grave left. In the end, it was all for naught. It was pitiful and lamentable. Why do you need to live in this person's shadow? Why do you feel inferior, unable to even protect your heart? Xiaochen could not guess the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's purpose in reincarnating into the martial epoch. However, he did not want to know, either. I once saw him sweep through the demons. Even when the 8 desolate demonic sovereigns worked together, they could not last more than 100 moves against him. I once saw him ascend the Spirit Mountain alone, not daring to show himself despite the gods and Buddhas filling the sky. I once saw him go to the Kunlun realm in the heavenly court in a rage for a beauty, shattering the clouds. 100,000 heavenly soldiers, 3,000 immortal kings, and 8 immortal ancestors could only watch as he carried the beauty away. Shi Wangmu's words were like a blow to the head, pulling back the disheartened Xiaochen. With all his hopes dashed, the demonic thoughts in the depths of Xiaochen's heart broke free like a wild horse, slowly slipping out of his control. Shi Wangmu's words elicited a bitter smile on Xiaochen's face. What is this? The demonized Xiaochen burst out with startling strength, driving all the soul energy in his soul pool. The more he thought about it, the more uncomfortable Xiaochen felt. Then, he clutched his chest and knelt on the ground. An uncontrollable obsession raged in Xiao Chen's body like a flood. He felt like he was about to lose control of his heart, showing a ferocious and pained expression. Xiao Chen felt startled. He did not know what kind of existence this Shi Wangmu was now. Her strength was somewhat incredible. It was like some kind of force had forcefully pulled her out and solidified her in his soul pool. Xiao Chen's hatred for the Sky Dome Immortal Lord turned into boundless hatred. He even felt a boundless murderous intent toward Shi Wangmu before him. The tears in Xiao Chen's eyes had already dried up, leaving only boundless loneliness and unchanging grief. The demonic thoughts were a ferocious beast, a ferocious tiger in the heart. Once released, even Xiao Chen would fear it. Running away was a sign of the weak. There were no openings. The immortal was Xiao Chen, the demon was Xiao Chen, and the Buddha was Xiao Chen. Everything was him. Only his heart did not change. Now, Xiao Chen finally understood that he was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord, a pawn that used the Qing Emperor's karma to reincarnate into the martial epoch. In this soul pool, Xiao Chen brought out strength that far surpassed his main bodies. Unexpectedly, he forced Shi Wangmu back step by step. Shi Wangmu snorted coldly in her heart. With a flip of her hand, she sent out a god-killing seal. Her gorgeous clothes fluttered, and her long hair fluttered. Her beautiful appearance was like a rose carved from ice, bursting out with a horrifying aura. When Xiao Chen discovered this opening, he immediately laughed maniacally. He showed no mercy, launching an even more unbridled attack. If someone had planted a seed of karma in Xiao Chen's life long before the martial epoch started, he would have died. The demonized Xiao Chen had broken the shackles that Xiao Chen had placed on himself, standing upright and rushing forward. There was no need to guess what the Qing Emperor's final wish was. It was to bring back the glory and flourishing age of the Blue Dragon bloodline. The person before Xiao Chen perfectly overlapped with the Sky Dome Immortal Lord from back then, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord who did not even spare a glance at the immortal ancestor. Come out. Shi Wangmu wore large, gorgeous clothes that looked like thousands of fresh flowers spread out. She knelt before the grave and caressed the wordless stone stele. Back then, the Qing Emperor made a deal with the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord successfully reincarnated into the martial epoch. However, he also had to inherit the karma of the Blue Dragon bloodline, completing the Qing Emperor's unfulfilled final wish. At first, Xiao Chen did not hold much of an advantage. However, he slowly discovered that Shi Wangmu had many concerns. Xiao Chen did his best to calm the fluctuations in his heart, doing his best to remain calm. Shi Wangmu calmed her emotions and said after some thought, I cannot exist for long. If you turn around and leave now, you might never be able to resolve the doubts in your heart. Are you sure you don't want to know anything? The name of the Sky Dome Immortal Lord shook the three realms. Everyone knew him. He was the leader of the 3,000 Immortal Lords, fully deserving of being the strongest person in the immortal world. However, so what? In the end, he was just a pitiful worm. Before the epoch changed, he could not even protect his loved ones, friends, or lovers. That's right. It's me. It's me, the white-robed bladesman, Xiao Chen. You want to suppress me? It's not that simple. Die. Tell me, then. What exactly is the obsession in the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's heart? I, Xiao Chen, will complete it for him. Not only could the Sky Dome Immortal Lord not resolve the problem, but it also gave the demonic thought an opportunity to push the matter to a situation that he did not want to see. This Xiao Chen was insufferably arrogant, becoming increasingly arrogant. Boom. Right after Shi Wangmu spoke, Xiao Chen, who was originally just a bystander and could not even control his spiritual sense. Plop. Xiao Chen turned berserk. His eyes turned pitch black, and the demonic flames covering his entire body surged into the sky. Right now, Xiao Chen's heart was crumbling. He felt that he had lived his life in vain. Even Shi Wangmu felt immense pressure, unable to suppress the demonic thought in his body. Seeing the obsession and persistence in Xiao Chen's eyes, Shi Wangmu's body trembled. This is too similar. Seeing the increasingly berserk expression on Xiao Chen's face, Shi Wangmu stepped forward and placed her hand on his forehead. At this moment, there was no obsession or resentment in his eyes, only calmness and ease. Bang! Xiao Chen's heart and morals, which he had been holding onto until now, were a huge joke. Xiao Chen faced the karma that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord left behind. He faced the weakness and inferiority complex that he feared being mentioned in the depths of his heart. Shi Wangmu turned around and looked at Xiao Chen. She clearly looked at Xiao Chen, but she gave off an aloof feeling, a noble and cold arrogance that one could only look up to. Pa! Just as Xiao Chen was feeling confused, wondering why there was a grave in his soul pool, Shi Wangmu turned around and looked at Xiao Chen. When the god-killing seal landed, all of Xiao Chen's attacks were easily broken. However, Shi Wangmu's words and this strange grave shook Xiao Chen's indomitable heart. Hee. Are you afraid? In the end, this is my, Xiao Chen's, soul pool. It is not a place for an old and smelly woman like you to be stunned. If you still do not scram, don't blame me for being impolite. Chapter 23:33. Tell me, then. What is the obsession in the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's heart? I, Xiao Chen, will complete it for him. After saying this, Xiao Chen knew that the demonic thought in his heart had already vanished. Deep in his heart, he knew everything that had happened when he was demonized. However, the demonic thought was too deep. After demonizing, one's way of thinking would completely change. After demonizing, one would abandon their long-held heart and break the shackles. Their strength would soar by leaps and bounds. However, the increase in strength would only be temporary. The negative emotions would linger for a long time, forming new shackles. In the martial Tao, many experts demonized. Most of them could not break the shackles for a long time. Their obsession was too deep, and they took risks out of desperation, losing to power. While it looked like their strength soared for a short time, in reality, it became a subsidiary of power, falling into the abyss forever. However, it was not that no one in history had entered the Tao through the demonic path. After demonizing, they found another way to control the demonic thought, such as the Buddhist sect's Kasyapa Buddha. In the past, Xiao Chen had faced the danger of demonizing many times. However, he managed to keep his heart at the very last moment. However, when he saw the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's grave and learned that he was just a pawn of the Sky Dome Immortal Lord, his mental state fluctuated too much. He felt like he was living in someone else's shadow. With all his hopes dashed, the demonic thought found an opening. Fortunately, Shi Wangmu woke him up at the crucial moment. This experience of demonizing gave him a new understanding of his heart, removing the greatest weakness in the depths of his heart. To others, Xiao Chen's talent was outstanding. He was calm and collected, even more horrifying than a demonic genius. However, Xiao Chen always hid a secret in his heart that no one could tell others. Xiao Chen was not a person of this world. He came from the distant earth. Originally, he was just a somewhat introverted shut-in. Sometimes, he doubted all his current glory and strength. Was it just because of that miraculous, immortal pill? Without that immortal pill, would he not have been able to achieve his current accomplishments, unable to become the white-robed bladesman in the eyes of others? This was the ultimate weakness that troubled Xiao Chen's heart of the martial Tao. He did not even dare to think about it. He had already forgotten about it for a long time. However, just because he didn't think about it didn't mean that it didn't exist. The truth was the truth. Hence, when Xiao Chen saw the grave of the Sky Dome Immortal Lord and heard what Shi Wangmu said, he had such a huge reaction. They would lose all hope and feel inferior. It was like the fear and embarrassment of a person with a dishonorable past who had been exposed in public after succeeding. But now, Xiao Chen had a new understanding of his heart, and the biggest flaw in his mental state had been fixed. "Thank you, Queen Mother," Xiao Chen said sincerely as he looked at Shi Wangmu's grave. She looked like a phoenix that descended from the heavens. If not for the other party, Xiaochen would still be deceiving himself, not daring to face the karma left by the Sky Dome realm. Shi Wangmu said calmly, humans are all like that. Most of the time, it is just that they cannot overcome themselves. Once you get past it, you'll realize that what you're afraid of is actually just that. It's not that scary. I understand. Xiaochen performed a cup-fist salute and bowed. His eyes were like limpid autumn water, rippling with faint ripples, looking peaceful and peaceful. He gave off a feeling of tranquility and otherworldliness. It was like he had been reborn. Shi Wangmu looked at Xiaochen in a daze. Then, she sighed softly and said, he did indeed have a very deep obsession. I believe that even in death, he would not have forgiven himself. What obsession? He once had the chance to become the new epoch master. However, because of his conceit, he failed miserably. Who did he lose to? Shi Wangmu shook her head and said, I don't know. I only know that after that battle, he changed completely. He did not say a word as the epoch changed. He sank into despair and helplessness. Given his character, if he lost, he would have ended it with death, not living an ignoble existence. However, not only did he survive, but he even set up a trap, carrying the karma of others to the martial epoch. He definitely felt dissatisfied. Xiaochen entered deep thought. It looked like Shi Wangmu was not clear about the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's trap. Although he did not say it, I can roughly guess that he swept through the three realms. Even the Immortal Epoch's epoch master was not a match for him. He definitely felt dissatisfied with how he lost in the end. Shi Wangmu voiced her guess based on her understanding of the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. Xiaochen thought to himself, Shi Wangmu is a proud person. Shi Wangmu's guess should be close to the mark. Putting this matter aside for now, Xiaochen asked, what was the message that he wanted you to bring me? Whoosh! An item appeared in the Queen Mother's hand. It was a gloomy ball of light. When Xiaochen looked at the outline of the ball of light, he vaguely felt that it was an extremely ancient talisman script containing some supreme law. It should have once shone with light, writing the laws of the world, containing the Tao and principles that everyone had to abide by. What is this? Although this item was already dim, Xiaochen could still feel its unfathomable power and strange law energy. This is the Epoch Heart. More accurately, it is the Immortal Epoch Heart. Back then, the Immortal Epoch's Epoch Master used his supreme might to write the character, Immortal. Hence, the Immortal Epoch began, giving birth to thousands of laws and principles. It was the character, Immortal, the heart of the Immortal Epoch. The Immortal Epoch started because of it. Shi Wangmu slowly explained the origins of this item, shocking Xiaochen. To think that the once glorious and vast Immortal Epoch started because of this item. I'm very curious. How exactly did the new epoch start? What kind of person truly had the qualifications to establish a new great era? Why was it that after the great era before the great era was destroyed? Why did the Immortal Epoch appear after the end of the previous epoch and not some other epoch? While Xiaochen felt shocked in his heart, his doubts also filled his heart. He looked at Shi Wangmu in confusion. Shi Wangmu said after some thought, after the epoch is destroyed, everyone can condense a new epoch heart. Using one's own understanding to start a new epoch, one can spread out in the end, continuously perfecting one's Tao and principles. There will always be only one epoch heart. That one will be the true master of the new epoch. Xiaochen revealed an expression of understanding. So, that is the case. Everyone can condense a new epoch heart. However, the epoch hearts that they condense have their own merits, with some strong and some weak. There will be competition between experts, just like 100 clans contending for supremacy. The victor will rule the new epoch. The laws of the world will materialize according to the Tao and principles in that victor's heart. He told me to hand this Immortal Epoch Heart to you after I meet you. Shi Wangmu stretched out her hand and gently raised the Immortal Epoch Heart. Then, the Immortal Epoch Heart slowly flew towards Xiaochen. Xiaochen carefully put away the Immortal Epoch Heart. However, he could not understand what the Sky Dome Immortal Lord meant. Could it be that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord wanted to restore the immortal epoch to its glory and decline? The entire immortal epoch's birth, glory, and decline are all within it. In the future, if you want to start a new epoch, it should be of help to you. When Shi Wangmu saw Xiao Chen's confused expression, she explained softly. Very well, I'll accept it. Can you send me off? Xiao Chen carefully put away the immortal epoch heart. Then, he looked at Shi Wangmu. He's still worried about Xiao Sua, Hao Kai, and the others. He did not know how they were or what the ethereal immortal palace was like. The commotion caused by this succession race was already uncontrollable. Xiao Chen needed to leave early. If he stayed late, he might miss the crucial moment. Shi Wangmu said indifferently, I'm afraid not. Why? When Xiao Chen heard this, his expression immediately changed drastically. Right now, his physical body was lacking life force. Right now, the life force of his physical body was slowly fading. If he still did not leave, he might die here. Shi Wangmu gently drifted down and landed beside Xiao Chen. Then, she walked forward. As Xiao Chen watched Shi Wangmu leave, he hesitated for a moment before following. Shi Wangmu revealed a reminiscing expression on her face. She muttered to herself, I did not want my physical body to be destroyed when the epoch changed. I did not want to end up like the other immortals, dying for no reason, growing old and wrinkled, living like an old woman. So, there was this immortal burial lake. I would rather die at the bottom of the lake, as long as my appearance remains and my physical body remains immortal. When Xiao Chen heard that, he felt somewhat sorrowful. It was hard to imagine that a beautiful person like Shi Wangmu would have a wrinkled face and grow old. Indeed. So, I begged him to create an immortal burial lake for me. When I learned that the epoch changing could not be avoided, I jumped in without hesitation. Shi Wangmu revealed a gentle smile on her face. She said, he told me to leave a strand of my soul intact. He said that he would come back again. At that time, if I can get out, it will be a fortuitous encounter. If I cannot, he will stay behind and accompany me, dying at the bottom of the lake with me. As Xiao Chen looked at the smile on Shi Wangmu's face, he felt some pity in his heart. At this moment, the other party was not the aloof Shi Wangmu, who looked like a model of phoenixes. She was just a passionate young girl. Back then, when she jumped into Immortal Burial Lake, she definitely had such a smile on her face. However, because of a promise, she left with a smile from the bottom of her heart and jumped into Immortal Burial Lake without hesitation. However, in the end, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord still lied to her. He did not come. The one who came was Xiao Chen. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord was left with only a lonely grave. Hence, Shi Wangmu sat before the grave, crying endlessly. She had waited for many years. However, all she got was a grave and the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's lie. As the saying went, getting out is a fortuitous encounter. That was the fortuitous encounter left for Xiao Chen. If Shi Wangmu could not get out, the one who stayed behind to accompany her would be Xiao Chen. From the start to the end, it was not the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. Chapter 23:34. Shi Wangmu's words sounded like she was talking to herself. However, in reality, she also answered the doubts in Xiao Chen's heart. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord had left the fortuitous encounter at Immortal Burial Lake for Xiao Chen. If Xiao Chen could comprehend it, he could obtain this fortuitous encounter. If he could not, he would stay behind and become a living corpse to accompany Shi Wangmu. Not wanting to waste time, Xiao Chen asked, Senior, do you know what the mysteries of this Immortal Burial Lake's fortuitous encounter are? If Xiao Chen could find some clues, it should be easier to comprehend it. Shi Wangmu said softly, life above the lake and death below the lake. Life and death hang on a thin line. However, to me, life can only be found below the lake. There is only death above the lake. The epoch changes, life and death, life and death. Life and death, life and death. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up as he suddenly understood. It turned out that Shi Wangmu already knew what the fortuitous encounter the Sky Dome Immortal Lord left here was. What will happen to you after I leave? However, Shi Wangmu felt dispirited, like she was seeking death. Xiaochen felt very nervous as he looked at Shi Wangmu's back. Me? I have been waiting for a person for so many years. That person has arrived. Xiaochen added, I want to ask, if I obtain the fortuitous encounter at Immortal Burial Lake, what will you do? Why are you so confident? It is still uncertain whether you can walk out of this Immortal Burial Lake. Shi Wangmu smiled faintly as she turned to look at Xiaochen. You already told me earlier that the fortuitous encounter at Immortal Burial Lake is that so? Shi Wangmu interrupted Xiaochen, showing a smile that did not seem like a smile, unfathomable. Xiaochen did not know whether it was a tacit agreement or a denial. Right after Shi Wangmu spoke, her figure started to drift away. Her expression was neither joyful nor sorrowful as she said, the fortuitous encounter is right before you. Grasp it properly. Boom. As Shi Wangmu's figure vanished, Xiaochen's consciousness came out of his soul pool and returned to reality. In reality, it was not as relaxing as it was in the soul pool. Immortal Burial Lake was like a boundless abyss. Xiaochen's physical body continued to sink at the bottom of the dark water. His life force slowly faded. Even worse, he could not use his soul energy or divine energy. Death crept closer and closer, but he could only watch it happen slowly. There was no doubt that it was more despairing than fear. However, this time, Xiaochen was no longer as flustered as he was at the beginning. He opened his eyes in the dark lake. Her clear eyes shone with a gaze that was even cleaner than the lake water, tranquil and peaceful. The Queen Mother of the West once said, live on the surface of the lake, die under the lake. The changing of eras, life and death, his words ended here. It seemed like he didn't say anything, but he had already pointed it out. Epochs changed, life and death, death and life and death. Only the cycle of reincarnation would never end. The opportunity in the Immortal Burial Lake was the essence of the change of epochs, the reincarnation Great Tao. The Queen Mother of the West had actually seen through it long ago. However, she did not say it out loud because she was waiting for someone. That person was not Firmament, but Xiaochen. She would rather use a lie to deceive herself for the rest of her life, pretending that she did not see through it, pretending that she was still waiting for someone. This was because that person was her most beloved, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. Whether you love me or not, whether you lie to me or not, at the very least, in your heart, I was once a person worth trusting. As the epochs changed, how many people did not have a choice? How many people did not mean what they said? How many people cheated and lied? I am already satisfied with your trust. I would rather be misunderstood by you, jumping into Immortal Burial Lake so that my beauty would not be ruined. However, in Queen Mother's heart, from the start to the end, she was only guarding this lake for you. As Xiaochen expected, the state of cycle circulated smoothly. As the state of cycle slowly circulated, Xiaochen stopped sinking. Xiaochen closed his eyes and focused on circulating the state of cycle. The scattered life force returned to his physical body 100 times, 1,000 times faster. A black and white halo appeared behind Xiaochen, looking like life and death circulating. Mysterious phenomena immediately appeared in the lake, and all sorts of scenes appeared. A figure roamed the great 1,000 realms, searching for treasures of heaven and earth. Even 100,000-year-old immortal herbs were condensed into a drop of dew. This was the dew materialized by the boundless supreme treasures of the world. Many a little makes a mickle. From a depression, to a clear spring, to a circle of water, and finally to the lake in front of them. It turned out that before the immortal epoch ended, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord gathered all the supreme treasures of the world to form this Immortal Burial Lake. After that, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord used the different attributes of these supreme treasures to derive the cycle Great Tao. Finally, it created the terrifying Immortal Burial Lake. Life above the lake, death below the lake. This sentence looked simple, but it already involved the power of laws, close to creating a world. At this moment, after Xiaochen circulated the state of cycle, he activated the backup plan that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord left behind. Xiao Chen's physical body was like the mouth of a deep abyss, frantically devouring the entire immortal burial lake's water. If someone else were here, they would be shocked to discover that the entire immortal burial lake's water level dropped at a visible rate. In merely a few breaths, Xiao Chen absorbed half of the entire immortal burial lake. After about 7 minutes, Xiao Chen stood in the middle of the lake, his upper body already exposed. The lake water had already dropped to his knees. The black and white ring of light behind him had already turned into a black and white ink world. Boom! When not a single drop of lake water remained, Xiao Chen suddenly opened his eyes. A spiritual light surged in his clear eyes. At this moment, Xiao Chen's state of cycle finally formed a great Tao. The fortuitous encounter that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord left behind for Xiao Chen surpassed his imagination. Not to mention the cycle great Tao that Xiao Chen could freely drive from now on, this lake water formed by countless supreme treasures from the immortal epoch would bring him unimaginable benefits. With a thought, Xiao Chen was shocked to discover that his cultivation had already broken through to 3-vein sovereign emperor. With a thought, Xiao Chen was shocked to discover that his cultivation had already broken through to 3-vein sovereign emperor. At some point in time, he had formed a 4th divine vein in his body, breaking through to small perfection and advancing to great perfection sovereign emperor. However, this divine vein seemed somewhat special, different from the other 3 divine veins. Bang! Just as Xiao Chen was about to check it out, loud sounds came from the surroundings. The immortal corpses filling the air suddenly shattered. A strong wind picked up their bones and scattered them into ashes. After Xiao Chen absorbed the immortal burial lake, the originally unkillable immortal corpses turned into ashes. Xiao Chen's heart suddenly tightened, and anxiety appeared on his face. When he looked up, he saw a person standing in the air in front, looking like she would go with the wind. She was a peerless beauty, a beauty that could topple nations. She was as beautiful as an ice lotus, looking very noble. Shi Wangmu. The joy in Xiao Chen's heart scattered. He felt empty as he frantically ran towards Shi Wangmu. Shi Wangmu seemed to hear Xiao Chen's call. Then, she looked back and smiled as she stretched out her hand. This smile was like a sovereign descending on the world in the spring breeze. However, this smile was very lonely, making one's heart ache like needles pricking one's heart. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground with his feet and soared into the air. It looked like he was about to touch that jade-white finger. Shi Wangmu's entire body shattered and went with the wind. She was like a short-lived epiphyllum, a smile that could topple nations. Then, she fell and went with the wind. Xiao Chen landed dispiritedly. He closed his eyes and remained silent, unable to speak for a long time. The ancient sages were all lonely. The 10,000 years of mundane affairs were all for naught. Shi Wangmu was a peerless beauty, like an ice lotus blooming at the peak of the Kunlun realm, attracting thousands of immortals. In the end, she scattered like a flower. Before the epoch changed, she was helpless. In the 10,000 years of mundane affairs, how many people, how many things, and how many beautiful dreams all came to naught. Saying that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord was unrivaled in the world was just a liar. The might of the 3 realms could not compare to Shi Wangmu's smile. However, Xiao Chen somewhat envied the Sky Dome Immortal Lord for having a confidant like Shi Wangmu. Xiao Chen felt very jealous. How many women in the world could see through things like her without saying anything? To be able to be like her, indulging in love until death, even if the other party loved someone else. What was love in the world? It was like drinking. One would not leave until one was drunk. Chapter 23:35. The existence of the immortal burial lake abandoned the complicated 7 states. Or rather, it advanced directly from the 7 states to the life and death Tao, connecting directly to the essence of reincarnation. That was when Jiang He's chest shone with a blinding radiance as blinding as the sun. Boom! Everyone was shocked, and panic appeared on their faces. They found it difficult to control their bodies. Even the Silver Dragon King and Sikong Shu, who had been keeping their guard up against Shi, did not expect Shi to be so horrifying. He thought that these people had left after failing to open the immortal palace. This was one of the ultimate grand daos. Everything in the world had life and death. After falling to the bottom of the lake, Zhang Xian had no idea what was going on behind him, but from the chaotic situation before him, he had caught a whiff of a scheme. If he still did not make a move, Xiao Sua and the others would be swallowed by Xi's demonic eye. Right now, Xiaochen had to focus on keeping an eye on Xi and see what he was up to. A thick blood-colored flame burned in his left eye. The blood-colored flame burned through the barriers of countless worlds in the depths of his eye. His eyes burned out of his eye sockets and lingered under his brows, erupting with a terrifying devouring power. Devouring the heavens, devouring the earth, devouring everything. It was not the pure power of life, nor was it the pure power of death. Instead, it was a brand new power of the great Tao that was created by combining the characteristics of the two. From slaughter to death, it was actually a reincarnation cycle, from life to death, and from death to life. Yuan Zhen sat on the lotus platform, tightly controlling a 5-colored divine stone. Xiaochen fought 1 against 4, Wen Renyu, Dao Yan, Ming Xian, and Yang Qing. After the saber light passed, the originally distorted space and chaotic scene were forcibly returned to normal by this saber. Just as the 5-colored divine stone was about to be devoured by the dazzling radiance in front of Jiang He's chest, from a bystander's point of view, he only needed to pay a little attention to discover all sorts of strange things. The 5-colored divine stone that Yuanzhen held tightly to struggled free and flew towards Jiang He's chest. As he stealthily looked over, he could see that those people all had confused expressions on their faces. Xiaochen soon realized that someone was using Jiang He to set up a trap. He wanted to incite the various factions to fight to remove the restriction that the Heaven Dragon had left in Jiang He's body. Chu Chaoyun. The consequences were unimaginable. Xiaochen had to pull out the saber. Boom! Xiao Sua, Hao Kai, and Lin Feng guarded him, fighting Qin Ming and Yan Sangming with much difficulty. The wings of time are in the 5-colored divine stone in Yuanzhen's hand. No one could avoid it. The so-called reincarnation power was essentially the power produced by the reincarnation cycle of life and death. Even though the immortal palace had disintegrated, these people did not stop. After a moment of shock, they continued to fight. In the past, he had condensed the reincarnation intent from the intent of slaughter, despair, and death. The others who were struggling in the demonic eye whirlpool were repelled by the devouring power and sent flying. With a single glance, Zhang Xian recognized that this was the inheritance key that everyone yearned for but could not find. No. Xiao Chen. If there is a next life, I only hope that you don't become infatuated. Just be yourself and be a peerless beauty. Why has the lake dried up? Just at this moment, the misty immortal palace in the sky started to shake. A crisp sound rang out. The resplendent light in front of Jiang He's chest gathered into a key covered in talisman scripts and shot out. Xiaochen stretched out his hand and caught a pure white piece of jade. He could clearly sense the pure spiritual energy contained in it. Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun's visit, the wings of time that everyone expected did not appear. Only 8 words floated quietly in the air. Demonic eye swallowing the heavens. Damn it, what's going on? Crack. Just like how one would not return until they were drunk, Xiao Chen's figure flashed. Before the immortal palace completely disintegrated, he withdrew his aura and hid. Hidden in the dark, Xiao Chen frowned heavily, feeling very confused. The Silver Dragon King and Sikong Shu also noticed the dried lake water. Zhen Yuan's eyes turned pitch black. A black dragon image slowly swam in each of his eyes. Xiaochen felt somewhat heavy. As he looked at the empty sky after Shi Wangmu left, his heart also felt empty. If Shi Wangmu had been talking about Shi Wangmu, perhaps he would have added that he would not return until he was drunk. The inheritance key easily broke the 5-colored divine stone. The newly formed divine vein was completely different from the previous 3 divine veins. It was even clearer and purer. Aside from driving his divine energy and soul energy, it was also for driving his cycle great Tao. The Silver Dragon King and Sikong Shu, the two experienced great perfection sovereign emperors, did not participate in the battle. Instead, they kept staring at the mysterious and unfathomable Shi. The two agreed that Shi, who had not made a move yet, definitely knew some secrets. This thought immediately flashed in Shi's mind. Never mind, the restriction is about to be undone. I'll go and check it out after I obtain the wings of time. Xiao Qin stopped thinking and looked up. He saw cracks appearing in the ethereal palace that was as perfect as a beautiful piece of jade. Qin Ming and Yan Sangming attacked ruthlessly, showing no mercy. They wanted to chase away the three and kill Jiang He. Shi, Chu Chaoyun, Yuan Zhen, and Zhen Yuan were in a tense stalemate. Saber lights knocked them into the air, causing them to vomit blood. However, what Xiao Qin did not understand the most was this saber light. This slash seemed extremely ordinary, yet everywhere it passed, it swept through everything in its path, and all phenomena collapsed and were easily crushed. As long as Xiao Qin kept an eye on Shi, he would not have to worry about not gaining anything. Xiao Qin frowned heavily as his thoughts raced at lightning speed. Chu Chaoyun's figure turned blurry, turning chaotic. He gently pushed off with his feet, trying to confuse space and break free. Given the ethereal immortal palace's noble and magnificent appearance, only Shi Wangmu in the immortal epoch could possess such a powerful treasure. That was very likely the case. Otherwise, there was no other explanation for the ethereal immortal palace's coincidental appearance at Immortal Burial Lake. Pu Ci. Suddenly, Xiao Qin thought of a name. Shock filled his face as he gaped. The ethereal immortal palace completely disintegrated, and a river of stars flowed continuously in the sky. Countless stars flickered in the sky. Suddenly, a ripple appeared in space, and a blurry figure seemed to emerge from the primal chaos. Could the ethereal immortal palace's disintegration have something to do with Immortal Burial Lake's drying up? Only 3 people could barely stabilize themselves in the whirlpool. Crack. This was especially so for Chu Chaoyun, Yuan Zhen, and Zhen Yuan. As they struggled, they did their best to prevent Shi's demonic eye from swallowing up the inheritance key and the 5-colored divine stone. Without any warning, she appeared above Jiang He and landed a palm strike on his back. However, just at this moment, Shi, who had been strolling leisurely with his hands behind his back, suddenly made a move. Shi Wangmu just left, and something happened to the ethereal immortal palace. Could it be that the ethereal immortal palace was Shi Wangmu's temporary residence when she was alive? Chu Chaoyun. Earlier, Xiao Qin had been wondering who was using Jiang He to lay a trap. Then, he was shocked to discover that Chu Chaoyun was not around. He clearly sensed that the potential of Immortal Burial Lake had not been exhausted yet. Naturally, the 5-colored divine stone that Yuan Zhen grasped could not escape Xiao Qin's notice. The space-time ripples coming from it would be hard not to notice. After a while, Xiao Qin perked up and checked the changes in his body. She stood in the air and looked at the deep pit left by Immortal Burial Lake. He showed some confusion in his eyes. Someone is laying a trap. On the other side, a Buddhist light shone, and Buddhist chanting rang out endlessly. Yuan Zhen pressed his palms together and chanted endlessly. The colossal figure of the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva materialized behind him. Jiang He. After grasping the cycle Great Tao, Xiao Qin gained many comprehensions, many things that he did not understand when he was still in the state of cycle. Seeing Chu Chaoyun appear, rage immediately appeared on Xiao Sua's face. He ferociously swung the Scarlet Blood War banner and charged at Chu Chaoyun. Everyone saw Xiao Qin use the inheritance key to open the 5-colored divine stone without hesitation. Immediately, some people cried out in dissatisfaction. Clearly, the ethereal immortal palace's sudden disintegration caught these people off guard. The 3 of them, along with Shi, fought in 4 directions. The others felt the world spin around them, their bodies spinning in a whirlpool. No matter what Xiao Qin thought, the ethereal immortal palace disintegrated at a visible rate. The peerless unpolished jades emitted a celestial spiritual light as they rained down in all directions. After indulging in love, they would not return until they were drunk. Even if they were drunk, they would not return. The main reason was that she was too strange, and his strength was unfathomable. The two did not dare to confidently defeat him. One of them stepped aside to check. If she suddenly attacked, they might not be able to stop him. Die. Immediately, everyone thought of a possibility. What was love in the world? However, the gazes of the others were no longer on Chu Chaoyun. Instead, they were focused on the golden key. They saw Jiang He floating in the air with his eyes closed, unconscious. Light continuously poured out of Jiang He's chest as the restrictions in his body rapidly dissolved. The shock waves from the battle of the various sides, be it demonic chi divine energy or spiritual energy divine energy, silently entered Jiang He's body after a series of ripples. Then, they sped up the removal of the restrictions in Jiang He's body. Tears of blood continuously dripped from Shi's eyes. Clearly, it was very taxing for him to fight so many outstanding talents alone. The onlooker sees more clearly than the person involved. The five-colored divine stone instantly melted, and the resplendent space-time power rippled like lake water. The Silver Dragon King, Sikong Shu, Wen Renyu, the other outstanding talents, and the older generation sovereign emperors all felt their breathing turn rushed. When the various outstanding talents on the ground saw Shao Chen walk out while brandishing his saber, they revealed horrified expressions. The palace shook continuously, showing signs of breaking apart. This startled Shao Chen. The four sides fought in secret, not daring to relax. The scene in this area turned blurry, and space twisted. Shao Chen's left eye was like a bottomless hole. Everything in the surroundings flew into his left eye uncontrollably. The chaotic battle continued. As the ethereal immortal palace disintegrated, it became even more chaotic. After Shao Chen consumed the entire immortal burial lake, he easily broke through to small perfection sovereign emperor and advanced to four-vein sovereign emperor. However, the two did not do anything. Pu Ci. The sound of intense fighting rang out, along with all sorts of familiar shouts. Who would have thought that all of them would enter the immortal palace without a single one missing? Shao Chen sheathed his saber and slowly walked forward from the darkness. Then, he stretched out his hand and collected the inheritance key and the five-colored divine stone. However, these were not what shocked Shao Chen. What shocked Shao Chen was that as the ethereal immortal palace disintegrated, the inheritance key appeared. The inheritance key. Because Shao Chen's physical body could not endure it, he stored the potential of Immortal Burial Lake's boundless natural treasures, waiting to be developed. As the four sides wrestled, a saber light carrying the power of reincarnation swept out. One could face death and live to death. One could cycle endlessly, producing the power to tear time and space. Life to death, death to life to life. As long as the world existed, the cycle would not end. The person who arrived was Chu Chaoyun, who had been lying in wait for a long time. Chu Chaoyun saw Shi, who wore the scarlet dragon robes, standing upright with his hands clasped behind his back. It seemed like the battle before him had nothing to do with him. What surprised Shi was that although the ethereal immortal palace disintegrated, every piece of white jade seemed to be connected. Chapter 23:36. Dragon Emperor Shao Yun came here. There was nothing. When Shao Chen used the inheritance key to open the seal on the five-colored divine stone, he did not get the wings of time that everyone expected. Instead, he got a sentence that rendered everyone speechless. Dragon Emperor Shao Yun came here. Even though Shao Chen had always been calm, he was stunned speechless when he saw these words. He was completely stupefied. He was completely dumbfounded. What the hell? Everyone schemed, set up, and used all sorts of trump cards, fighting to the death. In the end, all they got was empty words, Dragon Emperor Shao Yun's merciless mockery. Shi, who was even more incredulous than Shao Chen, remained unperturbed, believing that his plan was flawless. Shi's mind went blank as he muttered to himself, impossible. This is absolutely impossible. If Dragon Emperor Shao Yun took away the wings of time, he would definitely hide it in the demonic Dao Hall. If it were in the demonic Dao Hall, I would definitely know, where exactly went wrong? Chu Chaoyun remained silent, showing a complicated expression as he looked at the 8 words in the air. It was like he saw Dragon Emperor Xiaoyun mocking the Holy Lord. A person who died 50,000 years ago toyed with the powerhouses of the various factions. Although there were no foe gods here, in reality, those who could reach this step had the support of a super faction. By standing here, they represented not only themselves but also the terrifying factions behind them. What the heck is going on? Qin Ming bit his lip, confusion filling his face. His father clearly swore that the wings of time were hidden in the ethereal immortal palace. However, why was there nothing after the inheritance key opened the seal? There's no need to think about it. Dragon Emperor Xiaoyun must have taken away the wings of time. We were all fooled by him, Sikong Shu said with a sullen expression, sounding extremely upset. No one would feel good if they were fooled by a dead man. Crack. Crack. Just at this moment, cracks appeared at the edges of this space, spreading out like a spiderweb. When everyone looked up, the space-time tunnel formed by the 7 ethereal immortal palace keys was shrinking continuously. Oh no! This space-time secret realm is going to shatter. Instantly, everyone started to panic. They were in the middle of a space-time gap. As a mystic realm, it had always been extremely stable. But now, strange things kept happening. First, the misty immortal palace had exploded, and the celestial burial lake had disappeared for no reason. Now, the 5-colored divine stone had also been opened. The important pillar that maintained the space-time mystic realm might no longer exist. If they couldn't get out before the secret realm broke, they might be lost in the space-time reversal forever. We shouldn't stay here for long. Let's go. The immortal palace was gone, the immortal burial lake was gone, and now the wings of time were also gone. Even the mystic area was about to be destroyed. If he stayed here any longer, he would definitely die. He had to leave even if he didn't want to. Zhen Yuan and Yan Sangming stood side by side, appearing somewhat confused. Dragon Emperor Xiaoyun came here. Came here? Yan Sangming said somewhat hatefully, feeling very depressed. Zhen Yuan said indifferently, it is still acceptable. Let's go. The outcome of the Crown Prince battle should be out soon. However, the outcome of the Crown Prince battle doesn't seem to have much meaning. Zhen Yuan paused for a moment. Then, he smiled and said, that's true, this was decided from the very start. Let's go. Our original plan will not change. Yes. So. Many figures immediately flashed, flying towards the space-time tunnel in the sky. No matter how dissatisfied they were, being fooled was being fooled. They had to leave. Lord Shi. When Ming Xian and Yang Qing arrived beside Shi, they clearly discovered that something was wrong with Shi's condition. Shi's left eye looked like a hole, not daring to look at it directly. His complexion was pale, and he kept muttering to himself. Ming Xian frowned slightly and said, Lord Shi, we should go. If we still don't, this place will crumble. Shi covered his left eye and slowly stood up. Then, he looked at Xiao Chen, who was taking care of Jiang He. It seemed like she was wondering if the other party's expression was fake or not. Ming Xian, do you think that Xiao Chen obtained the wings of time in advance? He mysteriously came back to life in Immortal Burial Lake. Even I could not understand that final saber strike. Rumble. As she spoke, the space-time secret realm slowly shook, and the cracks widened. Ming Xian said after some thought, perhaps he had some other fortuitous encounter, but the wings of time should not be in his hands. Otherwise, if he had the wings of time, we would not be able to survive. He would have finished us all off. At that time, when the epoch changed, he would not have a single opponent. She remained silent. In his heart, he also leaned toward Dragon Emperor Xiaoyun taking the wings of time. However, it was strange. If Dragon Emperor Xiaoyun had the wings of time, why did he not use it when he fought the Holy Lord back then? There had to be something fishy about this. Let's go. After looking at the crumbling secret realm, she no longer hesitated. After some thought, he said, "Let's leave first. Our plan is not over yet." "Yes." Before leaving, she gave Xiaochen a deep look, revealing a complicated look in his right eye. Soon, aside from Xiaochen, Xiao Suo, Hao Kai, and Lin Feng, who were guarding Jiang He and the others, only Chu Chaoyun remained in this secret realm. Chu Chaoyun wanted to go over from a distance, but he saw Xiao Suo's murderous expression. Chu Chaoyun shook his head and sighed softly before leaving through the space-time tunnel. "Big brother, can he still be saved?" Xiao Suo asked somewhat anxiously. The secret realm looked like it was about to collapse, but Xiaochen did not show any intention of leaving. It was hard not to feel anxious and worried. However, Xiaochen remained unmoved, appearing like he did not hear Xiao Suo's words. He entered deep thought. Jiang He's condition was extremely strange. All signs of life were present. However, his divine seal was dim, and his soul showed no fluctuations. He was like a living corpse. After a while, Xiaochen's gaze landed on his right hand. The inheritance key in his palm flickered with a faint light. Could it be? A thought occurred to Xiaochen as he looked at Jiang He. Then, he looked at the inheritance key in his hand. Could it be that this inheritance key already merged with Jiang He's soul? I can only gamble. Xiaochen stretched out his hand and slapped the inheritance key back into Jiang He's chest. Boom! In the next moment, Jiang He's chest burst out with resplendent light. The beautiful ethereal immortal palace jades in the sky turned into beams of rainbow light and entered Jiang He's chest. The wandering starry river in the sky and the surrounding stars all followed. Soon, a brand new ethereal immortal palace materialized in Jiang He's chest and merged into his body. This, Xiao Suo, Lin Feng, and the others gaped at this scene incredulously. After Jiang He absorbed the entire ethereal immortal palace, his entire body gave off a crystalline, faint light. Like a peerless piece of jade, her entire body, from the inside to the outside, was undergoing a complete transformation. Understanding appeared in Xiaochen's eyes as he understood some things. This ethereal immortal palace did not have the wings of time. The previous generation Heaven Dragon was very clear about this. He must have discovered some of Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun's secrets in the Blue Dragon's old land. The Heaven Dragon had left the inheritance key in Jiang He's body to give him a great fortuitous encounter. All of this was Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun's plot. After learning about Dragon Emperor Xiao Yun's plot, the previous generation Heaven Dragon went with the flow and left this fortuitous encounter for Jiang He. Since the Heaven Dragon had the wings of time 50,000 years ago, why did he not use it against the Holy Lord? Xiaochen could only personally ask the previous generation Heaven Dragon for the answer. Otherwise, he could only seek the answer in the Blue Dragon's old land. It's over. It's going to collapse. Xiao Suo said in some despair as he looked at the edges of the collapsing space. This secret realm was already in tatters. Don't panic. Xiaochen slung Jiang He over his shoulder and said, "Come with me." He drove the cycle Great Tao, and Xiaochen gently pushed off with his feet. Then, he used the power of cycles to reconnect the shattered space. After Xiaochen left, space immediately shattered. Wherever he passed, the space behind him would collapse. He relied on the forceful pull of the reincarnation power. Then, Xiaochen led the four into the air, forcibly stepping out of the passageway just as it was about to close. Lin Feng and the others, who followed behind Xiaochen, felt incredibly mystical. They suddenly discovered that Xiaochen seemed to have undergone a drastic change compared to before he sank to the bottom of the lake. Xiaochen now gave off an indescribable calmness. His eyes were clear and pure, and he gave off a faint otherworldly aura. Previously, this feeling was not obvious. Now, it was very clear. The succession race will end soon, Xiaochen said softly. After exiting the passageway, the group returned to the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Xiaochen looked at the peak of the ancient Yan Emperor tree. Chapter 23:37. At the peak of the ancient Yan Emperor tree, the 9th Prince Wang Yan was currently fighting an intense battle with the 4th Prince Wang Yun. However, the situation did not look good. The Yan imperial sword that Wang Yun refined was the 9th altar. 9 was the limit, containing a vast amount of dragon essence. The other princes, on the other hand, had long since lost the right to participate in the battle for the position of crown prince. They could only watch from the ancient tree. The 8th Prince Wang Feng and the 13th Prince had unwilling expressions on their faces. They were the most popular princes after the first prince. Who would have thought that after the death of the first prince, someone would truly ascend to the top of the ancient Yan Huang tree? They were the two brothers whom he looked down on the most. This was especially so for the 4th Prince Wang Yun. He had always been treated like a fool, a complete joke. No one thought that he would be able to pass the first round of the test. But who knew that this fool would turn the tables and stand at the top of the ancient Yan Huang tree? This was the final battle with the 9th Prince Wang Yan. Based on the situation, Xiaoqin was suppressing Wang Yan all the way, holding a great advantage. Even though Wang Yan's grasp of the massacre Great Tao was far more exquisite than the other party's Buddhist Tao might, Wang Yan's massacre Great Tao was not as exquisite as the other parties. In terms of martial strength, the 4th prince could not compare to the battle-hardened and experienced Wang Yan. However, there was nothing he could do. The 9th altar contained too much dragon essence. The might of Wang Yun's Yan imperial sword far surpassed Wang Yan's. Wang Yan used force to break technique. He did not need to use too many exquisite killing moves or martial techniques. He could suppress Wang Yan with just the sword in his hand. 9th brother, you still haven't given up. Wang Yun held his Yan imperial sword at the top of the ancient tree, stuck in the vast clouds. The body of the sword overflowed with Buddhist light, and the Buddhist light behind him shone even brighter. It was as if a sky full of Buddhas had appeared, chanting Buddhist mantras incessantly, and the might of one sword seemed to be able to flatten mountains and rivers. Wang Yan's eyes filled with murderous intent. However, his aura was completely drowned out by the other party's vast sovereign might. It seemed as if he was surrounded by a powerful army, and his entire body was filled with killing intent as he fought bravely while bathed in blood. Unfortunately, there was no end to the killing. Even when they were exhausted, they were still unable to break out of the encirclement. It looks like Wang Yan's defeat is only a matter of time. Xiao Suo looked into the distance and sighed softly as he watched the battle at the top of the ancient Yan Huang tree. Hao Kai also shook his head slightly. Although the few of them had not interacted with Wang Yan for long, they still admired his character. Seeing that the prince whom he had been escorting was about to lose to someone else, he couldn't help but feel indignant. Xiao Chen's expression was calm, and his emotions did not fluctuate. Along the way, he had done his best to protect Wang Yan. Now, in this final battle, he could only rely on himself. Regardless of the outcome, he only hoped that he would not have any regrets. He could tell that Wang Yan's martial Tao foundation far surpassed the 4th prince, Wang Yun. After all, he had been stationed at the borders all year round and was always at the forefront. Wang Yun, who lived in the capital, couldn't be compared to him. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen's aura was completely suppressed. The dragon essence in the Yan imperial sword could not compare to his opponent's. If he could come to his senses and use the brocade pouch that he had given him, it would be hard to say who would win or lose. However, it did not matter. The first prince had already been killed. No matter who ascended to the position of crown prince, Xiaoqin could still reluctantly accept it deep down in his heart. At this moment, Xiaoqin had other worries. The succession race in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb had been full of twists and turns. The situation had developed to this point. It was hard not to worry about why the imperial ancestral temple was protecting Shi and the others. Now, Xiaoqin felt somewhat worried about Ao Jiao, Su Yi, and the others in the depths of the imperial palace. Big brother, should we continue watching? Xiao Suo asked as he looked at Xiaoqin. Most of the other prince's guests had already left the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Let's leave this place first. Xiaoqin and the others thought to themselves, give up. Then, They immediately felt a vast, mighty force from the depths of the ground connecting to their physical bodies and souls. The mighty force of the ancient Yan Emperor Tomb forcefully sent Xiao Chen and the others out. In the next moment, Xiao Chen opened his eyes, and the scene before him changed drastically. His entire body suddenly felt incredibly relaxed. The pressure of the ancient Yan Emperor Tomb no longer existed. Whoosh! 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 The instant Xiao Chen appeared in the imperial palace's drill ground, he immediately felt 10 odds strong, suffocating soul energy scanning his body. This startled Xiao Chen. He had once come into contact with a faux god flame and could clearly sense it. Every strand of soul energy contained a faux god flame. This meant that a significant number of faux gods had arrived in the Yanwu dynasty. The soul energy containing a faux god flame left as quickly as it came, lasting less than 1,000th of a second. Those who were slightly weaker would not be able to sense it. Xiao Chen understood. These faux gods were trying to sense if they had the wings of time or not. Xiao Chen immediately felt a chill down his spine, feeling fortunate. Fortunately, the misty immortal palace did not have the wings of time. If he had taken the wings of time and appeared in the imperial palace, the misty immortal palace would have been destroyed. If Xiao Chen obtained the wings of time and appeared in the imperial palace, he would instantly suffer the attacks of at least 10 odd faux gods. At that time, even if he had the cycle Great Tao, he would not be able to escape death. However, it was hard to say. With so many faux gods gathered, the Heavenly Alliance's faux gods would be here as well. If the Heavenly Alliance's upper echelon knew that Xiao Chen possessed the wings of time, they would definitely protect him to the death. But no matter what, he would be caught in the center of the dispute, and it would be hard to predict whether he would survive or not. Without batting an eyelid, Xiao Chen handed Jiang He to Xiao Sua and walked toward Ao Jiao and Su Yi. Your Highness Goddess, I'm glad I didn't fail you. Hao Kai said respectfully when he saw Ao Jiao. Thank you, Senior Hao Kai. Ao Jiao quickly returned the greeting and said softly. Then, her beautiful eyes turned and landed on Xiao Chen. She complained, why did you work so hard? You don't know how worried we were about you. Indeed, the competition for the crown prince position was full of twists and turns. There were many times when he was on the brink of life and death. He didn't have the time to think about it, but the onlookers were definitely alarmed and worried. I'm not dead, don't worry. Feeling Ao Jiao's concern, Xiao Chen felt warmth in his heart. Then, he stepped forward and pinched Ao Jiao's cheeks. After Shi Wangmu's matter, Xiao Chen understood many things. One should not wait until the people by one's side were no longer around before regretting it. After seeing Ao Jiao, many of the emotions that Xiao Chen suppressed in his heart surged out. Ao Jiao's youthful face immediately blushed. She pulled away from Xiao Chen's hand and asked, what are you doing? There are so many people watching. Cough. Cough. Young Master Xiao, this is our Golden Crow Empire's divine daughter. Don't go overboard, Hao Kai said softly as he coughed a few times. Xiao Chen withdrew his hand and looked back. Indeed, several gazes were looking at him. Then, Xiao Chen saw Shi with a white bandage wrapped around his left eye. He smiled at Xiao Chen in a mocking manner. Yan Sangming and Zhen Yuan, who fought to the death with Shi earlier, were together with Shi again. There were also several hostile gazes, such as Qin Ming, who gritted his teeth in anger. Naturally, Xiao Chen ignored all of them. At this moment, the eliminated princes and the many guests on the drill ground all stared at the light screen. Everyone stared at the light screen, watching the peak battle between Wang Yan and Wang Yun. There was destined to be only one victor in this battle, ascending to the crown prince position. However, Xiao Chen had a bad feeling in his heart, regardless of whether he had the wings of time or not. Whether he had the wings of time or not, the Yanwu dynasty gathering so many faux gods was an ominous sign. If he got careless, a battle between faux gods would start. At that time, the consequences would be dire. What worried Xiao Chen more were Shi and Yan Sangming. One was the Xuewu dynasty's first prince, the leader of the demonic Tao. The other was the underworld god Hall's outstanding talent, representing the factions of the 9 layers of the abyssal underworld. They were like fire and water with the righteous Tao. Now that the first prince was dead, the 2 of them, who had lost their protection, still dared to openly remain in the palace. This gave Xiaochen a bad feeling. After some thought, he said, "Everyone, stay closer to me. Something is not quite right." The current calm was like the calm before the storm, making Xiaochen very worried. Xiaochen got Su Yi and the others to stay closer to him. Once there were any changes, he would use the divine universe steel to put everyone in. Su Yi and the others did not suspect anything. After hearing that, they quietly gathered around Xiaochen, surrounding him. Suddenly, Xiaochen thought of something. He asked, "Did you see the Yen Emperor appear?" As long as the Yen Emperor was around, Xiaochen could swing his Yen Imperial sword. Even foe gods would fear him in this Yenwu dynasty. Su Yi frowned and said, "His Majesty, the Yen Emperor, has not appeared since the start." The moment Su Yi said that, Xiaochen's heart skipped a beat. He already had a bad feeling. Just at this moment, the surrounding people started discussing. The 4th prince is going to win. On the light screen, Wang Yan, who was surrounded at the top of the ancient Yen Emperor tree, could no longer endure, getting knocked into the air by Wang Yan's sword. Blood spurted out endlessly, a cruel sight to behold. Chapter 2338. At the peak of the ancient Yen Emperor tree, at the start of the fight, Wang Yun, who held the upper hand, finally inflicted heavy injuries on Wang Yan, who was bitterly holding on. After being sent flying by a single sword strike, the accumulated injuries all erupted at this moment. Wang Yan, who was sent flying, showed an expression of dissatisfaction. Hate. If this Wang Yun was truly stronger than him, he could still accept his loss wholeheartedly. However, Wang Yun was no match for him. In fact, he was much weaker than him. However, he relied on the vast dragon essence contained in the 9th altar to suppress him in terms of the Emperor's might. He didn't have any room to display his various martial arts. The other party used force to break technique. "I don't care what killing move or martial technique you have. I only need one sword, and the deities and Buddhas in the sky all materialize sovereign might." If Wang Yan could match his opponent's long essence, he was confident that he could defeat his opponent within 3 moves. However, there were no ifs in this world. In terms of unwillingness, the eliminated 8th prince and 13th prince were even more unwilling. "It's a pity. I've already come this far, but I still fell short of success." Wang Yan felt very guilty. He felt that he had let down Xiaochen and the heavenly book scholar, who had supported him through life and death along the way. "I'm sorry to disappoint you." From the very beginning when he faced Wang Yuan, he knew that his chances of winning weren't high, and he had no regrets holding on until now. However, when he thought of Xiaochen and the others, he was filled with guilt. No. Just as Wang Yan closed his eyes in despair, he suddenly recalled that Xiaochen had given him a brocade pouch in Black Wind Ridge. Wang Yan, who was about to open it, was stopped by Xiaochen, telling him not to open it unless absolutely necessary. With this thought, Wang Yan opened his eyes. Just as he was about to descend to the top of the ancient tree, Wang Yan opened his eyes. With a tap of his foot, he stabbed his sword into the crown of the tree. He knelt down on one knee and stood up once more. A hint of doubt flashed in Wang Yun's eyes. In that instant earlier, he clearly sensed that the other party had lost all fighting spirit. There was no chance of victory at all, so why did he suddenly stop? "9th brother, there's no need to struggle anymore. You and I are brothers. I don't want to hurt you too badly, and I don't want to kill you," Wang Yun said calmly. What he said was the truth. Of the many princes, only Wang Yan did not have much resentment or murderous intent. However, if Wang Yan insisted on going his own way, then don't blame me for being ruthless. You think you've already won, isn't it? Wang Yun's lips curled up in a smile filled with mockery. His 9th brother, Wang Yan, is only a so-so. Even now, he is still so naive. I don't think so. Wang Yan's eyes suddenly narrowed, and a sharp look flashed in them. Then, he opened the brocade pouch that Xiao Chen gave him. Boom! The instant the brocade pouch was opened, a dazzling radiance flowed out in all directions. Wang Yun covered his eyes with his left hand and slowly looked at Luo Kai. He squinted his eyes, and when he looked, his expression changed drastically. It was a heavy jasper with clear ripples on the inside. 9 dragon shadows floated around it. This was a dragon jade with 9 dragon shadows. When this jade appeared, not only was Wang Yun shocked, but the many spectators in the dueling ground were also astonished. In the first round of the test, being able to fill up the dragon jade with 3 dragon shadows was already very impressive. Reaching 5 dragon shadows was already considered heaven-defying. It was unheard of for someone to reach 9 dragon shadows in the past. Damn it! Wang Yun could no longer remain calm. He cursed and charged over while holding his Yen Imperial Sword. Wang Yun wanted to end this battle before Wang Yan absorbed this dragon jade. Xiao Chen, you really gave me a pleasant surprise. A smile appeared on Wang Yun's face. The importance of this brocade pouch surpassed his expectations. Whoosh! Wang Yan raised his Yen Imperial Sword to the sky, and 9 dragon shadows immediately gathered. The Yen Imperial Sword in Wang Yun's hand burst out with a light that rivaled the sun. His dynasty's dragon might quickly soared. Wang Yun, who originally held a suppressive advantage, forced back his aura before the resplendent Yen Imperial Sword. Soon, Wang Yan's dynasty's dragon might clashed with Wang Yun's and overtook him. Wang Yun, who was charging over, could only watch helplessly as all this happened. A look of horror flashed in his eyes. Whoosh! Wang Yan roared furiously and soared into the air. His sword light flickered. Sword images containing the massacre Great Tao pierced through the Buddha statues in the sky and destroyed them all. Pu Ci. Wang Yun vomited a mouthful of blood as the many sword images knocked him to the ground. After losing the advantage in dragon essence, Wang Yun's true level instantly revealed itself. He lost in one move. How can it be like this? Wang Yun felt confused, unable to accept this. Earlier, he had been suppressing the other party. By the time their dynasty's dragon might were about the same, he was actually defeated in one move. Crack! Cracks appeared in the Yen Imperial Sword in Wang Yun's hand before shattering. Without sufficient accumulations, Wang Yun forcefully occupied the 9th altar. The huge difference after losing in one move caused him to crumble. After losing his Yen Imperial Sword, Wang Yun was forcefully sent out of the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. No one had expected such a dramatic reversal. In the end, the one to truly ascend to the peak and become crown prince was the 9th Prince Wang Yan. All the prince's Yen Imperial Swords were gone. Now, only Wang Yan's remained in the entire ancient Yen Emperor tomb. Boom! The dynasty's dragon vein hidden under the ancient Yen Emperor tomb poured into the ancient Yen Emperor tree and merged with Wang Yan, who was at the top. In the next moment, the huge screen in the drill ground shattered, materializing bright light. Wang Yan held his Yen Imperial Sword as he stepped out amid the bright light, appearing before everyone. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince. The various feudal lords and noble clans all stood up and performed cupped fist salutes. No matter how the succession race turned out, now that Wang Yan was the crown prince, he would be the next Yen emperor in the future. Wang Yan revealed a smile as he looked around, his heart filled with joy. If you are the crown prince, then what am I? Just at this moment, a discordant voice rang out. Wang Yan's expression changed slightly. Wang Yan looked in the direction of the voice and saw the one-eyed Shi smiling mockingly at Wang Yan, who had the dynasty's dragon vein. Wang Yan's face sank. I thought that you already left. You are still here even now. You are really bold. The sudden situation startled the feudal lords, the many princes, and the guests at the drill ground. Why should I leave? She countered with a faint smile. Right after she spoke, the Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestor walked out of the clouds in the sky above the palace. Then, he said coldly, Wang Yan, your guests cruelly killed the first prince. You will not be able to escape punishment. The elders have already decided to strip you of your crown prince position. What? These words were like a bolt from the blue, shocking the various feudal lords and stirring up a huge commotion. Wang Yan said with a sullen expression, I want to see Imperial Father. You are not qualified to strip me of my crown prince position. I'm afraid that's not up to you. She sneered and said indifferently. Whoosh! Hundreds of figures covered in demonic flames rushed out of the vast palace. Without exception, they were all demonic Dao Hall elite sovereign emperors. They surrounded the entire drill ground, filling the air with demonic might, spreading out in all directions. The Yanwu dynasty's palace instantly changed. The Imperial Ancestral Temple's experts, who were supposed to be here, disappeared. The demonic Dao Hall took over the entire palace. The expressions of the various feudal lords and princes changed drastically. At this moment, all the elites of the Yanwu dynasty gathered in the palace. It was like the demonic Dao Hall had surrounded them. In the palace in the clouds, the imprisoned Yan Emperor trembled with rage. To think that you are so deranged, becoming the demonic Dao Hall's dogs. The Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestor said expressionlessly, the epoch is changing. If we want to continue the Yanwu dynasty's glory, we need to make a choice. The sudden change in the situation caused everyone to feel somewhat frightened. How did the Yanwu dynasty fall in an instant, occupied by the demonic Dao Hall? How can it be like this? To think that the demonic Dao Hall's people took over the palace just like that. Senior Feng and the Heavenly Book scholar said with uneasy expressions, not understanding what happened. Shao Chen looked around and said, that is not all. The Underworld God Hall's people are mixed in as well. This should have been planned long ago. If the first prince had not died, the Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestor would have had a trump card to bargain with the other party. Now, he has completely sided with the other party. What should we do? Ao Jiao asked somewhat anxiously. The demonic Dao Hall took over the entire palace. The Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestors' experts listened to the other party. This was like the dynasty's faction and the demonic Dao Hall's faction working together to surround them. There was no way out. Give me the sword. She climbed onto the drill ground and walked towards Wang Yan, demanding the Yan imperial sword that symbolized the dynasty's inheritance. Chapter 2339. The entire palace immediately burst into a huge commotion. Mu Zifeng and Sui Renji both felt startled, flabbergasted. Wang Yan's lips curled up in a cold smile. After some thought, he said, you two are really my good brothers. Let me tell you this. Unless I die today, I will not give you the Yan imperial sword in my hand. During the succession race, she wielded the demonic imperial sword and prepared to swallow up the dynasty's dragon vein. The Imperial Ancestral Temple's elders, who managed the ancient Yan Emperor tomb, already turned a blind eye to it, not doing anything. Before the Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestor finished speaking, Pan Huang mercilessly attacked, sending him flying with a slap from a distance. Shao Chen, are you going to save the ninth prince? Indeed. Shao Chen thought to himself. It was more or less as he guessed. That's right. Father is still in their hands. Even if you don't want to kill us, are you going to kill Father as well? Everyone's heart skipped a beat. The smile on Xi's face faded, replaced by a murderous intent. Just as she pressed forward, the 13th Prince Wang Yi said indifferently. If not for something unexpected happening that even she could not control, Yuan Zhen and Wang Yan would have counterattacked. Several dozen figures rushed over from the dark. Without exception, they were all experts of the Imperial Ancestral Temple. Whoosh! 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 Everyone looked up and saw the peak of Spirit Vulture Mountain outside the imperial capital. The golden body of the Kasyapa Buddha released a resplendent light, materializing a Buddhist nation behind him. However, the situation was far from that simple. Hence, no matter what, they could not let down their guard. They had to protect the people around them. After some thought, Mu Zifeng said, "That's right. Wang Fei is the representative of the Imperial Ancestral Temple, the Demonic Dao Hall, and the Underworld God Hall. If he did not die, he would not have pushed Shi to the front. He would not have let these foe gods do so, either. However, a war between foe gods is just a matter of time. The Hidden Spirit Temple will not just sit and wait for death." Under the control of the Imperial Ancestral Temple's elders, the Yanwu dynasty submitted to the demonic Dao Hall. Did they become prisoners? Suiren Ji said softly, "Little girl, the Yanwu dynasty is now filled with the foe gods of the various super factions. No matter how bold the demonic Dao Hall and the Underworld God Hall are, they would not dare to offend all of them. People like the Dragon God Crown Prince Qi Ming and the profound Heaven Holy Sun Wenren Yu were also taken away by the foe gods of the various factions. The Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestor, an 8-vein sovereign emperor, could not even last one exchange with Pan Huang." Ao Jiao asked as he looked at Shao Chen. "The world out from the Shao into the Buddha Light Mountain." Suddenly, the boundless golden light disappeared, and a dark Buddhist light, accompanied by the strange and indifferent face of the Gautama Buddha, shrouded in front of the world. Shao Chen's heart was as clear as a mirror. He said, "Don't worry. There will be someone who will not let him die. I just need to take care of you." Pan Huang chuckled, looking down on everyone, not taking these four seriously at all. Chen Feng say, Chen, Chen, Shan. Spirit, Mu said. Ji said Ji, Mu, Emperor, Chen, Mu, hi. This is, the 9th Yen Emperor. He's still alive. It looked like a foe god battle was about to start. The Yanwu dynasty would always be at the foot of the Spirit Mountain. No need. You teach me. The Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestor appeared again in the palace in the clouds. He said calmly, "Princes and feudal lords, there is no need to be nervous. After Lord Shi becomes the new Yan Emperor, everyone will continue as before. Your titles and lands will not change. The martial epoch is about to collapse, and the new epoch is about to crumble. Lord Shi promised us even greater glory." The imperial palace had always been bathed in the Buddha's light, and it had never changed. Just at this moment, the golden body of the Kasyapa Buddha that everyone looked up to suddenly spun on Spirit Vulture Mountain. His gaze landed on Wang Yan from thousands of kilometers away. At the same time, he began to think about how his family and the interests under his name would change if this was true. What's going on? However, right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. A beam of golden Buddhist light pierced through the dark clouds and enveloped Wang Yan. Then, the golden Buddhist light quickly expanded. In a moment, it cleared away all the demonic clouds in the sky. So. Scram to the side. It was the Hidden Spirit Temple's abbot, Abbot Suyi. On the left and right were the Spring Snow Bladesman Pan Huang and Sword God Su Hanshan. Suiren Ji looked coldly at Mu Zifeng. Then, he waved his long sleeves and turned into a beam of dark light that pulled in Shao Chen and the others. Suiren Ji glanced over and said indifferently, "Brat, be more respectful when you speak. I was the one who made a move earlier to fish you out." This completely cut off Wang Yan's thoughts of fleeing with his sword. The golden body of the Kasyapa Buddha frantically switched between good and evil. The golden body of the Kasyapa Buddha began to switch between righteous and evil. Shao Chen could not help saying, "Lord Mu." When the ordinary people inside and outside Yen City saw such a miracle, they all knelt and prayed. When Shao Chen saw such a miracle, they all knelt and prayed. Shao Chen asked as he looked at Mu Zifeng. The hundreds of demonic Dao sovereign emperors in the surroundings showed cold gazes as they silently circulated their demonic essence. They drove overwhelming demonic chi, and surging black clouds instantly covered the sky above the imperial palace. Whoosh! Boom! This rather dramatic scene seemed absurd and inconceivable. It seemed to be unexpected, but also beyond reason. Just as the Yenwu dynasty was in a precarious situation, on the verge of leaning toward the demonic Dao Hall, this super faction, which had been hiding its strength and not made a move for many years, finally revealed its fangs. Shi's words had the meaning behind them. Even if everyone in the world wanted to side with the demonic Dao Hall, Wang Yan would absolutely not do so. In that case, since all of you are here, why did you not help the hidden spirit temple? Hao Kai could not help asking. Ao Jiao asked, then how did you enter the imperial palace? The people of the demonic hall didn't attack you? Below the martial arts practice field, many princes were shocked, and they were slightly dazed and unable to stand steadily. TSK, there are really a lot of old farts. Who else is there? Stop hiding. The four of you are not enough for me to beat you up. Bang! Right now, she had probably already swallowed the dynasty's dragon vein. The consequences would be even worse than now. The Imperial Ancestral Temple's imperial ancestor showed a grave expression as he flew forward. Then, he said, Senior Abbot, my royal clan is currently dealing with internal matters. Please leave. The Hidden Spirit Temple no longer has any connection to my Yenwu dynasty. Could it be? Wang Yan, who was on the martial arts practice field, felt a chill in his heart. His expression turned extremely unsightly. This was just his nature. Wang Yan's expression turned sullen, and his hand, which held the Yen imperial sword, trembled endlessly. He looked at Shi and asked, Is my father still alive? Take out the sword. A thought occurred to Shao Chen. He looked at Mu Zifeng and asked, Is it because I killed the first Prince Wang Fei? Shao Chen knew that he had to leave. With a thought, he prepared to take out the Divine Universe Steel. This did not surprise Shao Chen. When he looked back, he frowned heavily. He still felt somewhat worried about Pan Huang. The Imperial Ancestral Temple not only did not stop the demonic Dao Hall's sovereign emperor expert from taking over the Imperial Palace, but it even colluded with him. Even Shao Chen, Hao Kai, and the others all looked at Mu Zifeng in confusion. Even though some people were dissatisfied with the demonic Dao's sovereign emperors and the hidden Imperial Ancestral Temple experts, the Yen Imperial Ancestor was a dynasty that had existed for close to 100,000 years. Even though the Yen Imperial Ancestor normally did not show himself, it did not mean that there were no faux god experts. When Shao Chen's vision recovered, he only saw a blurry golden light in the imperial capital Yen City when he looked back. What startled Shao Chen even more was that the person traveling with him was his old rival, Suiren Ji. This enveloped the entire imperial palace in a somber and cold atmosphere, suppressing everyone. Shi's lips curled up in mockery. Are you sure that I will attack you? I won't. She smiled faintly and said, Naturally, you will live. However, if you do not cooperate, it will be hard to say whether you will live or not. Don't even think about resisting. The Imperial Ancestral Temple already came to an agreement with my demonic Dao Hall. The Flame Dragon formation in the Imperial Palace will not be activated. Clang! Since the demonic Dao Hall was confident of making a move under the Hidden Spirit Temple's nose, they definitely had something up their sleeves. 3 old men followed behind this white-haired old man. All the faux god experts of the royal court came out in full force. However, Shao Chen suddenly sensed a strong aura behind him. When he turned around, shock flashed on his face. Shao Chen knew that the Kasyapa Buddha's golden body had both good and evil sides. However, Shao Chen had never expected that the other side would appear before the world one day. However, he could still sense that strong faux god aura. Shao Chen's thoughts raced. He found it strange, but he resisted and did not make a move in the end. Even if Shao Chen did not become the crown prince today, he would still be the first to step forward in such a situation. A white-haired old man stood on the flame dragon, radiating a faint faux god might. Mu Zifeng smiled and said, What's wrong? Do you find it strange to see me? Now is not the time to speak. There will be a huge battle between faux gods soon. Suiren Ji, bring them away first. Wang Yan was not stupid. He quickly figured out what was going on. It was Mu Zifeng. Wang Yan had been rather calm from the start to the end, as he wanted to obtain the hidden spirit temple. No matter what, he would not just sit back and watch the demonic Dao Hall control the Yanwu dynasty. The Yan emperor had always been under the watch of the Buddhist ancestor, never disappearing. The hidden spirit temple. 3 figures approached from the peak of Spirit Vulture Mountain, appearing in the sky above the imperial palace's drill ground. Suiren Ji, a Heavenly Alliance senior elder, was an incredibly strong foe god expert. You have backbone, but is it useful? Just as Shaoqun felt uncertain, the golden Kasayapa Buddha body turned around again, revealing its benevolent, peaceful, and dignified side. Whoosh! The battle between foe gods is already unavoidable. No matter who wins, the Yanwu dynasty is finished. Unexpectedly, the people that Shaoqun wanted to kill in the final battle were his own people. Mu Zifeng sighed softly. Then, he said in a self-mocking manner, I am overthinking. The epoch has changed. There is no longer any distinction between the righteous and demonic factions. The super factions might be eager for both sides to fight. It would be best if both sides ended up severely injured, severely damaging their essence. A terrifying aura burst out from the depths of the imperial palace. 9 flame dragons gathered from different directions. 9th brother, just give the Yan imperial sword to Lord Shi. Don't be rash alone. Don't get us all killed. Wang Yan drew his sword, and the Yan imperial sword gave off a bright light, radiating the dragon might of a dynasty. A Buddhist light shone, looking very dignified. However, Wang Yan did not dare to say anything. Anyone who dared to step forward would definitely die. Now, Wang Yan finally understood that the demonic Dao Hall's actions had the tacit approval of the royal court's foe gods. The princes who lost the succession race did not want Wang Yan to become the crown prince in the first place. As Wang Yan held the Yan imperial sword, he smiled bitterly as he looked at the sovereign emperor experts in the imperial ancestral temple. When the sovereign emperor experts saw the situation, they started speaking in a strange tone, wanting Shi to hand over the Yan imperial sword. Shi spread his arms and gently drifted back. However, after thinking about it, there were already signs of this happening. The moment she said that, the various feudal lords' anxious hearts eased somewhat. Whoosh! Chapter 2340. After entering the residence, Shaoqun discovered that the Heavenly Alliance doyens and the group of foe god experts were all there. The old alliance chief, Hua Tianyang, and Suiren Ji were among them as well. They all looked at Shaoqun. After a while, Shaoqun figured out what had changed. Whoosh! When Mu Zifeng heard that, he felt slightly stunned. Then, he said, there is no need. Right after Mu Zifeng spoke, the other doyens agreed. In the end, only Suiren Ji remained silent. I know you have many questions in your heart. Ask away. Shaoqun could not help feeling suspicious. If he started a new epoch in the future, he would not be able to avoid destruction in the end. 3 days later, the alloy battle armor arrived at the Heavenly Alliance's headquarters. Mu Zifeng asked after some thought, fate cannot be defied? Mu Zifeng frowned. After thinking for a while, he said, strictly speaking, the martial epoch ended the moment the Black Dragon King broke the world tree. However, the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor suppressed the Black Dragon King back then, not giving him a chance to destroy the world, allowing the martial epoch to survive until now. Mu Zifeng explained, when an epoch reaches its end, there will always be an existence like the Black Dragon King, bringing the end and destruction. Only with destruction can there be new life. Only then can the epoch cycle never end. Why? Suiren Ji, do you have any objections? Light and shadow flickered. Shaoqun looked into the distance and discovered that aside from the palace, the imperial capital Yan City had turned into rubble. Suyi muttered to herself as she looked at the imperial capital Yan City, still showing disbelief in her eyes. Mu Zifeng thought for a while before saying softly, actually, you should address me as Alliance Chief Mu now. Let's go. This place is no longer safe. Let's return to the Heavenly Alliance's headquarters first. Why? Suyi, let's go. In the earlier exchange of foe gods, thousands or even tens of thousands of years of effort turned to dust, leaving nothing behind. It could be opened for cultivation only after obtaining the approval of all the doyens and foe god experts. The instant the Kasyapa Buddha's golden body shattered, two figures flew out of the Yenwu dynasty's vast territory. Mu Zifeng mocked, there is no need to care. Who would listen to him now? Does he think that he is still the epoch master? Go to the void god realm and die with him. I'm here to ask for your agreement to open the Nine Heavens origin gathering formation so that Xiaoqin can enter it to cultivate in seclusion. After Mu Zifeng sat down, he looked at Xiaoqin and smiled softly. The group boarded the alloy warship, all of them silent. My beauty's smile pavilion, the change of epochs and the collapse of order were just the beginning. Nine Heavens origin gathering formation. Xiaoqin was slightly shocked. He only calmed down after a while. You're the chief of the Heaven Alliance now. Mu Zifeng stood up and looked at Xiaoqin, wanting to speak to him alone. Even without the Heavenly Alliance's resources, after absorbing the entire Immortal Burial Lake and the Blue Dragon's treasure trove, he did not need many resources. As the two spoke, the horrifying battle between foe gods had already begun. It was broken. Mu Zifeng waved his hand and said, it doesn't matter. You know very well what kind of person I am. To put it nicely, we are helping each other. To put it bluntly, we are using each other. However, it does not matter. You and I are of use to each other. So, this relationship is unbreakable. After thinking for a while, Xiaoqin voiced his doubts. Xiaoqin felt worried. At the same time, he understood that after order collapsed, the foe gods would feel fear. When foe gods panicked, no matter how cruel the scene was, no matter how strong the power was, there was no order to maintain it. There were boundless benefits for a divine Vane Realm sovereign emperor to cultivate on this mountain. Originally, Xiaoqin planned to deal with this matter after he became the Dragon Emperor. However, he had no choice but to say it now. Xiaoqin had found it strange long ago. These two were sworn enemies. Why did they suddenly appear at the same time? Previously, Suirenji's attitude toward Mu Zifeng had been overbearing, like fire and water. Mu Zifeng asked with a frown. Xiaoqin, come with me for a while. All right. Let's put it this way. The Heavenly Alliance will invest all its resources on you to help you ascend to the Dragon Emperor position. However, there is one thing. If you succeed in starting a new epoch, you need to benefit the Heavenly Alliance. I need you to make an oath with your soul. Xiaoqin mocked, this is really interesting. Without anyone knowing, I helped you become the Heavenly Alliance's alliance chief. Upon seeing Xiaoqin agree, joy appeared on Mu Zifeng's face. This was especially so when Xiaoqin mentioned Mu Zifeng's name in the oath. Xiaoqin asked, feeling confused. He had been thinking of resealing the other party's Black Dragon King after he became the Dragon Emperor. Previously, Xiaoqin did not have a high status, so he could only cultivate at the waist of the mountain. As Xiaoqin said, Mu Zifeng had always been a person who prioritized his own benefits. It was just that he would hide it in the past. Now, he did not hide his desire at all, being direct. I'll give you 15 minutes to consider. I'm in no rush. Mu Zifeng and Suirenji both felt greatly startled, clearly extremely shocked. Now that order had collapsed, there was no way to restrain foe gods. It was hard to find a truly safe place in the Great Thousand Realms. After Mu Zifeng settled everyone down, he brought Xiaoqin to Heavenly Divine Mountain alone. Mu Zifeng gave Suirenji some instructions, and a transcendent alloy warship appeared. Then, he called Xiaoqin and the others over. Earlier, when the many foe gods fought, the number of people who died from the shock waves could no longer be counted in 10,000. Greetings, Alliance Chief. Do you know how the Black Dragon King was sealed back then? The blood-soaked Dragon Emperor exhausted the last of the martial epoch's luck before he succeeded. Furthermore, from a certain point of view, the Black Dragon King's appearance was fate. Even without the Black Dragon King, other experts would have appeared and destroyed the martial epoch. Mu Zifeng looked around and said calmly, Xiaochen already carved the oath on his soul. If he becomes the epoch master, he will definitely benefit the Heavenly Alliance. As long as everyone's juniors and clansmen remain in the Heavenly Alliance, they will safely survive the epoch change. Of course, that is on the premise that Xiaochen truly becomes the epoch master. When Xiaochen heard that, he felt slightly stunned. Indeed, he had not expected Mu Zifeng to be so direct. When Xiaochen heard that, he understood. No wonder these foe gods could only wait for death and still listen to Mu Zifeng's orders. Furthermore, they could obey Mu Zifeng's orders. It turned out that they all had descendants. They all had unresolved concerns and bloodline relatives. What? Xiaochen did not continue thinking. He chose to agree. Since the Heavenly Alliance was established, the ancient spirit-gathering formation had been established. It had been absorbing the spiritual energy essence of Heavenly Divine Mountain's supreme treasures for many years. The battle between foe gods was cruel. The imperial capital Yen City was instantly destroyed. This made Xiaochen feel that it was better to have a safe place. Xiaochen worried about Pan Huang's safety. His strength was limited, so he could only pray for Pan Huang's safety. The other figure towered into the sky, radiating a terrifying state of death. Everywhere it passed, life force extinguished, materializing the image of an underworld deity. Let's go, one of the doyens said. While Suiren Ji's words sounded like a question, he was actually threatening Xiaochen. How did you end up with Suiren Ji? The Alliance chief's residence at the summit of the Heavenly Divine Mountain was previously managed by Hua Tianyang. Now, it was managed by Mu Zifeng. At that time, with the strength of a foe god, Mu Zifeng would be able to kill the people that Xiaochen cared about. Precisely. Long before the Crown Prince's war, the Alliance head had already decided to choose between me and Suiren Ji. Thanks to you, your performance in the ancient Yen Emperor tomb far surpassed Lin Feng's, and I became the new Heavenly Alliance's alliance chief. There's no need. I promise you. I swear in Xiaochen's name that if we start a new epoch one day, I will not forget the Heavenly Alliance and Lord Mu Zifeng's kindness, and I will protect them. There seemed to be a boundless force twisting space and confusing the surroundings, preventing others from seeing what was happening. Alliance Chief, the Holy Lord just sent orders for the leaders and foe god experts of the 5 super factions to head to the foe god world. We will discuss how to deal with the demonic Dao Hall and the underworld God Hall. However, once it started, it would immediately descend into madness, chaos, and doomsday. It could only end when the new epoch started. A figure covered the sky with demonic clouds. Everywhere he passed, demonic clouds covered half of the Yanwu dynasty's territory. What was the meaning of the epoch's existence? Suddenly, Xiaochen said, Lord Mu, you have changed. These two were the demonic Dao Hall's Hall Master and the underworld God Hall's Hall Master, the most horrifying existences among the demonic Dao foe gods. If Xiaochen was not willing to let go of this grudge, there was no need for Mu Zifeng to worry too much. In any case, he would die. Xiaochen continued, just like back then, when the immortal Dao collapsed, the cycle of reincarnation was destroyed, and the immortals fell. Coincidentally, Xiaochen had many questions in his heart that he wanted to ask Mu Zifeng. After leaving some instructions to Ao Jiao, Mo Chen, and the others, he followed behind Mu Zifeng. Mu Zifeng said indifferently, you should have noticed that practically all the super factions have a spokesperson. They are betting everything, hoping that their faction's spokesperson will become the new epoch master in the future. Naturally, my Heavenly Alliance cannot continue splitting resources. We have to make a choice between you and Lin Feng. The only thing that Xiaochen could gain was that the Heavenly Alliance would be a great help in the fight for the Dragon Emperor position. When the Black Dragon King reappears, the martial epoch, which is already at its end, will officially come to an end. At that time, all the foe gods who ignited their divine flame and were too deeply connected to the martial epoch will fall. There is no why. Every epoch ends like this. Then, a new epoch emerges. This is fate. Xiaochen raised his eyebrows as he looked at the other party. He discovered that Mu Zifeng seemed to have changed from before. However, he could not see the situation inside clearly. Come, I'll bring you to the peak of the Divine Mountain. After the epoch ended, it would be like when the immortals fell back then. All the foe gods would not be able to avoid being buried with the martial epoch. I know where the Black Dragon King's seal is. I can gather foe gods to strengthen the seal. Mu Zifeng narrowed his eyes slightly as he smiled. He has indeed changed. The epoch is changing, and a great calamity is looming. No one knows what the future will be like. Even foe gods feel fear and unease. Since things have reached this point, why do I need to disguise myself? I might as well live freely. No matter who it was, they would not be able to accept it. Heavenly Divine Mountain was a divine mountain formed from the Heavenly Alliance's boundless resources. Mu Zifeng smiled happily and said, "Good. From now on, you are one of us. What else do you want to know? I will definitely tell you everything I know. Everyone keeps talking about the epoch changing. I would like to know when the martial epoch will end." "Yes." Mu Zifeng said after some thought, no wonder the Imperial Ancestral Temple's elders are so confident, daring to work with the Underworld God Hall and the Demonic Tao Hall. It turns out that they already predicted that the Buddhist sect's days are numbered, which is why they are so bold. Even the Alliance chief did not have the authority to open it. Suiren Ji showed a cold expression as he smiled sinisterly. "What objection can I have? Xiaochen, this old man once had an old grudge with you. Although you repay kindness, you are ruthless and vengeful. You are not a good person either. Let me ask you this, after you become the Epoch Master, will you let go of this grudge? I am not begging you. If you are not willing to let go, that is fine. In any case, you are someone who is about to die. I do not have to worry too much." Seeing Xiaochen remain silent, Mu Zifeng immediately understood that Xiaochen should have something to rely on. The golden Kasyapa Buddha body, which had existed since the birth of the martial epoch, actually shattered on Spirit Vulture Mountain. Actually, Xiaochen was somewhat hesitant about whether to agree or not. Chapter 2341. Suiren Ji. Are you trying to rebel? Rage appeared on Mu Zifeng's face. This Suiren Ji was not giving him any face at all. Mu Zifeng had already formed a contract with Xiaochen. However, at the last step, Xiaochen put him on the spot. Suiren Ji ignored Mu Zifeng's rage and the other doyen's anger. Suiren Ji maintained a sinister expression. In any case, in Suiren Ji's opinion, Xiaochen was someone who repaid kindness with kindness and grudges with grudges. Xiaochen was ruthless and vengeful. However, Xiaochen's character was rather good. As long as Xiaochen made a promise, Suiren Ji would believe him. It looked like Mu Zifeng was about to give the order for the other foe gods and doyens to attack Suiren Ji together. Xiaochen raised his hand to stop Mu Zifeng. He felt somewhat sorrowful in his heart. Suiren Ji's threat made him feel some pity. This was the change of epochs. Even someone as strong as a foe god felt so uneasy and lowly. If it were in the past, Suiren Ji would not have bothered with Xiaochen when foe gods were aloof. However, Suiren Ji now showed a cold expression, threatening a four-veined sovereign emperor Jr. with words that cut off all means of retreat. How could a foe god do such an embarrassing thing in the past? Xiaochen said calmly, "I can promise you that as long as you do not make a move against me, I will naturally not make a move against you. All the more, I will not touch your Heavenly Alliance descendants or other blood relatives." I was just waiting for you to say that. After hearing Xiaochen's words, Suiren Ji's expression instantly changed, revealing a faint smile. Mu Zifeng showed a sullen expression, ignoring Suiren Ji's little tricks. He said softly, "Doyens, let's work together to open the seal on Heavenly Divine Mountain." "All right." Whoosh! 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 The doyens and faux god experts present all took out Heavenly Alliance medallions and dripped their soul blood into them. The medallions immediately gave off a bright light, giving off many ancient and mysterious talisman scripts, looking very dazzling and intoxicating. After a while, these 10-odd Heavenly Alliance doyens merged into a door of light. They formed a door of light that emitted a hazy and mysterious purple luster. The door of light was covered in pure white snow, and a plum blossom stood proudly. This was the symbol of the Heaven Alliance. Mu Zifeng and the other doyens stopped what they were doing and looked at the light door with complicated expressions. Open this door, and you will enter the core of the God of Heaven Mountain, which is a paradise created by the 9 heaven source gathering formation. Mu Zifeng said with a grave expression as he looked at Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen was about to step in, Mu Zifeng said again, "There is one last thing that I want to remind you of." "What?" "Once you enter, you won't be able to exit for a year. The 9 heavens origin gathering formation would only self-destruct when the heavenly divine mountain's resources were truly exhausted. The space-time inside is distorted. 1 year in the outside world is equivalent to 10 years inside." Xiao Chen turned around and said, "In other words, I have to stay in there for 10 years before I can come out." Mu Zifeng nodded and said, "That's right. The purpose of this heavenly divine mountain is to nurture the epic master. Only a superpower could create such a blessed land. Once the seal was broken, the heavenly treasures would be destroyed. Once the seal is broken, there will be no turning back. You will not come out until you exhaust the resources that the Heavenly Alliance has accumulated for more than 100,000 years. Do the other super factions have similar paradises?" Xiao Chen asked. "Naturally. Their inheritances might be even more ancient, so you have to give it your all. If you don't exhaust the resources, you won't be able to come out." Xiao Chen thought to himself, this is equivalent to being separated from Ao Jiao, Mo Chen, and the others for a year. Had I known, I would have made some arrangements in advance. Help me take care of Ao Jiao, Mo Chen, and the others. I hope to see them again 1 year later. Bang! Right after speaking, Xiao Chen pushed open the door and entered the core of the heavenly divine mountain. Whoosh! 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 The doyen's medallions returned, and Xiao Chen vanished. Mu Zifeng muttered to himself, "I have bet more than 100,000 years of the Heavenly Alliance's luck on you. I hope you will not disappoint me." At the same time, in the Universe Origin Sect, Bushin Palace, and the Profound Heaven Holy Land, the masters of the various super factions did not heed the Holy Lord's orders to head to the faux god world. They were making similar preparations to the Heavenly Alliance. In their opinion, the Holy Lord was already at the end of his rope. The martial epoch would crumble soon. If they headed to the faux god world now, they would just die with the Holy Lord. Light flickered, and the world spun. After a bout of dizziness, Xiao Chen's vision cleared up. Then, he appeared in a mist-shrouded pool. When he looked up, he saw countless stalactites hanging above him, giving off brilliant lights and spiritual energy. Drip! Drip! At the bottom of the stalactite, a handful of dewy spiritual beads fell into the pond. Xiao Chen gently pushed off with his feet and soared into the air. Then, he plucked a stalactite. Crunching sounds rang out as Xiao Chen took a bite. As he expected, it was spiritual milk. Whoosh! The moment Xiao Chen took a bite, the spiritual milk materialized in his body like a storm, pouring into his divine energy sea. As he looked around, Xiao Chen said softly, "This place is indeed a blessed land. The spiritual energy here does not contain any impurities at all. If it were someone else, they would not be able to finish absorbing it even after 100 years. However, Xiao Chen was different. His 10,000 dragons art had already reached the 3rd layer and condensed a blue dragon essence soul. The newly condensed blue dragon essence soul was like a baby waiting to be fed. It happened to require a large amount of resources. Even if it was not enough, Xiao Chen still had the demonic cloud heaven swallowing art. He could materialize the demonic cloud bird, so he did not need to worry about not being able to consume it. As Xiao Chen walked, he felt time flow slowly. He entered deep thought, not in a rush to absorb the spiritual milk here. Xiaoqin had his own thoughts. In terms of resources, the various super factions should be about the same. Some super factions had inheritances even older than the Heavenly Alliance. In terms of cultivation, there was no way to determine who was stronger. After he came out of closed-door cultivation, he might even be weaker than the other party. Hence, the crux of these 10 years was not to absorb all the resources here and raise his cultivation. Instead, Xiaoqin needed to understand his Tao. Aside from the cycle of reincarnation, his Tao was also the Tao that he accumulated bit by bit. Compared to Shi, Chu Chaoyun, Wen Renyu, Qin Ming, Yan Sangming, Yuan Zhen, and the others, Xiaoqin's Tao was more complicated and his path more difficult. Xiaoqin dual cultivated immortal cultivation and martial cultivation. At the same time, he had a fate with Buddhism. With the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique, many people of the Buddhist sect could not compare to him. Furthermore, Xiaoqin cultivated an ancient demonic cultivation technique, the demonic cloud heaven swallowing art. At the same time, he possessed the blue dragon divine body. Xiaoqin dual cultivated immortal cultivation and martial cultivation, divine and demonic as one. He also had a Buddhist heart. Compared to the natural treasures that littered this place, understanding his Tao was more important in these 10 years. Perhaps it had something to do with Shi Wangmu's experiences, but Xiaoqin still maintained an indifferent attitude toward the vast spiritual milk that the Heavenly Alliance had accumulated for more than 100,000 years. His expression was calm, like that of a mortal walking on a mountain made of gold, calm and indifferent. In contrast, when Qin Ming, Wen Renyu, and the others entered their respective blessed lands, they immediately went wild with joy. They did not hesitate to circulate their cultivation techniques frantically, absorbing the surrounding natural treasures into their bodies at a horrifying speed. How long was 10 years? Xiaoqin did not know. The instant he entered the Nine Heavens origin gathering formation, he started thinking about dual cultivating immortal cultivation and martial cultivation, divine and demonic as one, and a Buddhist heart. He wondered how to merge them, how to walk a path that belonged to him, Xiaoqin. This was a path that no one had taken before or after. 1 year passed in the blessed lands. Suiren Ji, Hua Tianyang, and the other doyens came to find Mu Zifeng in a somewhat flustered manner. Alliance chief, not to mention 10% of the resources in the blessed lands, there is not even 1,000th less. What is this Xiaoqin doing? Is he sleeping inside? This guy better not waste our painstaking efforts. Regardless of whether he absorbs it or not, after 10 years in the cave, the divine of Heaven Mountain will self-destruct. The group of doyens appeared flustered. After Mu Zifeng persuaded them to leave with kind words, he also felt apprehensive in his heart. What was Xiaoqin up to? Soon, 2 years passed in the blessed enclave. The spiritual milk formed by the various natural treasures in the Nine Heavens origin gathering formation did not decrease at all. This group of doyens sought out Mu Zifeng again. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, in the blink of an eye, 8 years had passed in the blessed paradise. However, the resources in the Nine Heavens origin gathering formation did not decrease at all. Now, not only Hua Tianyang and the other doyens but also Mu Zifeng could no longer sit still. Everyone, what should we do now? After a while, regardless of whether Xiaoqin is willing or not, the heavenly mountain will collapse, but the resources inside will not decrease. Mu Zifeng said somewhat helplessly as he looked at everyone with a sullen expression. The situation before them was beyond Mu Zifeng's expectations, something he had never expected. Actually, they had already discussed such a problem several times. However, they could not come up with a good solution in the end. Should we switch out someone else? Hua Tianyang said after some thought, since the resources in there have not decreased, let's risk it and open the seal. Then, we can switch out someone else to absorb the resources in the Nine Heavens origin gathering formation. Who should we switch to? Let's switch to Jiang He. He is the Heaven Dragon's descendant. Coincidentally, he absorbed the entire ethereal immortal palace. I think that he is a person with great luck. Coincidentally, he is also in our heavenly alliance. He also wants to become the Dragon Emperor, so we might be able to make a deal. Someone whispered a name, which immediately caused a moment of silence. Switching out someone else meant abandoning Xiao Chen. Mu Zifeng closed his eyes and said, "Don't say it first. Let me think about it." Chapter 2342. Let me think about it. 8 months had passed since Xiao Chen entered Heavenly Divine Mountain's 9 Heavens Origin Gathering Formation. Based on the ratio of time in the 9 Heavens Origin Gathering Formation, Xiao Chen had been in there for 8 years. During these 8 years, the 10,000-year-old spiritual milk and the various divine sources in Heavenly Divine Mountain had not moved at all. Such a strange situation made the Heavenly Alliance's upper echelon feel somewhat anxious and uncertain. Some of the outstanding talents that the other super factions placed their bets on had already appeared and stirred up a storm in the Great Thousand Realms, attracting attention. For example, the Dragon God Crown Prince Qin Ming suddenly came out of closed-door cultivation 2 months ago. Now, he was a horrifying 9-vein sovereign emperor. The more horrifying thing was that he had completely unlocked the potential of the Golden Dragon's bloodline. His every movement gave people the feeling that he was an ancient golden dragon that had come back to life. The many older generation 9-vein sovereign emperors in Bushin Palace trembled before him. However, Xiao Chen still showed no signs of movement. No one knew what was happening inside. "Zifeng, we can't wait anymore." Hua Tianyang, the old alliance chief, said hoarsely, his face covered in wrinkles, looking extremely old. The other doyens did not say anything. However, the expressions in their eyes as they looked at Mu Zifeng went without saying. They could not afford to wait. Or rather, the Heavenly Alliance could not afford to lose. As the epoch changed, as long as they lost the bet, it would not just be 1 or 2 people who died. The thousands of clans and factions that relied on the Heavenly Alliance would either be destroyed or enslaved in the new epoch. As folk god experts, they definitely did not want their descendants to be unable to maintain their current status in the new epoch. They might even be enslaved by other factions. Mu Zifeng said after some thought, "I understand. Get someone to send Jiang He over." Understood. In less than 15 minutes, the folk god experts brought Jiang He to the summit of Heavenly Divine Mountain. Back then, after absorbing the ethereal immortal palace, Jiang He had fallen into a deep sleep. Then, Xiao Chen saved him. Jiang He had already woken up 3 months ago. Now, he had already stabilized the fortuitous encounter in the ethereal immortal palace. His entire body gave off an ethereal air. This was especially so for his eyes, which were as bright as stars and gems. When looked carefully, they were as deep and vast as the boundless starry heavens, giving off an ethereal and clear feeling. The ethereal immortal palace's aura was perfectly compatible with the Heaven Dragon mysteries. Now, Xiao Chen already possessed a true Heavenly Dragon bloodline. It had to be said that the previous Heavenly Dragon owed Jiang He a lot. However, he had done everything a father could to show the utmost fatherly love. The Heavenly Alliance doyens, including Mu Zifeng and Sui Renji, all carefully sized up Jiang He, nodding to themselves. Xiao Chen was very satisfied with Jiang He. Since something unexpected happened to Xiao Chen, Jiang He was a good backup. "Seniors, what do you want to discuss with me?" Jiang He quickly asked, feeling weird being sized up by a group of people. Zhao's Dao Emperor Alliance Chief Shin God, Alliance wants to ask him, "King Chen is, you want me to be to replace Chen? You want Chen, you want me substitute? You want a Divine Emperor, you want me you want me replacing me instead? Shao King Chen heaven on one, you heaven on one, on demon you sue you all." Yes. The Heavenly Alliance has already staked everything on this and cannot afford to fail. You also want to become a Dragon Emperor, right? With our support, you will definitely be able to become a Dragon Emperor after you absorb the spiritual milk and divine source in the 9 Heavens Source Gathering Formation. Mu Zifeng knew that Jiang He had a deep relationship with Xiao Chen, so he made his relationship clear. Several thoughts flashed through Jiang He's mind, but he soon calmed down and mused to himself, "Chieftain Mu, I suggest we wait." Perhaps Xiao Chen is at the critical juncture of his closed-door cultivation, and if we rashly open the seal, it will instead cause him to fall short of success. But we can't wait any longer. That's right. Once the 9 Heavens Source Convergence Array is activated, it can only be maintained for a year. It's already been 8 months. Xiao Chen has been in there for 8 years. No matter what he is doing, he should have finished it by now. Little brother Jiang He, just say yes. When the Heavenly Alliance Doyens saw Jiang He hesitate, they immediately felt somewhat anxious. They couldn't be blamed for not being anxious. After all, they had given Xiao Chen a lot of time. If it wasn't at the very last moment, they wouldn't resort to such a method. Rumble. Just as Jiang He was about to speak, the entire Heavenly Divine Mountain suddenly shook intensely. The world spun around as if time and space twisted. At the summit of the mountain, Mu Zifeng and the others in the residence shook, unable to stand stably. Everyone's expressions changed slightly, showing doubt in their eyes. Crack. Crack. Cracks appeared in the roof of the residence, and rubble fell continuously. The palace that stood on the peak of the mountain seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. Let's go. Mu Zifeng made a prompt decision, quickly leaving with Jiang He and the other doyens. Whoosh! Just as the group left the residence and landed at the foot of Heavenly Divine Mountain, the Heavenly Divine Mountain shining with spiritual light behind them suddenly lost all its spiritual energy. All of a sudden, there was no more spiritual chi, and it turned into a pile of withered rocks. Then, it collapsed. The 10,000-foot God Mountain disappeared in an instant. What's going on? Hua Tianyang and the other doyens were startled, their expressions changing dramatically. They all wondered if something had happened to the 9 Heavens Origin Gathering Array. It's over. It's all gone. Suiren Ji shook his head and sighed softly. The 100,000-odd years of the Heavenly Alliance's accumulations suddenly vanished before everyone's eyes. Jiang He entered deep thought as if he thought of something. Whoosh! 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 Many figures quickly flew over from a distance. The Heavenly Alliance's cultivators had rushed over after hearing the news. Heavenly Divine Mountain was the symbol of the Heavenly Alliance. Everyone's every move was watched by the light. What more when it collapsed? They could not hide it even if they wanted to. This might even trigger a chain reaction. Bang! Just at this moment, the rubble exploded, and a figure drifted out. Xiao Chen. Jiang He's sharp eyes immediately recognized the person who flew out of the Heavenly Divine Mountain's rubble. This person was none other than Xiao Chen. This is somewhat strange. Suiren Ji stared at Xiao Chen, who was slowly descending. He revealed an expression of doubt in his eyes, as he was shocked to discover that Xiao Chen's aura had disappeared. He was shocked to discover that, despite being a faux god, he could not make out Xiao Chen's cultivation. Xiao Chen, who appeared before Suiren Ji, seemed ordinary, without anything special about him. Mu Zifeng's expression changed slightly. He signaled with his eyes, and a grey-clad 9-veined sovereign emperor Doyan immediately soared into the air. He soared into the air and threw a punch at Xiao Chen without saying a word. When Xiao Chen punched, he activated his 9 divine veins at the same time. Vast divine energy and soul energy drove the power of the world and materialized the mysterious phenomenon of 10,000 stars falling and the sun and moon shattering. This punch seemed to shatter the boundless river of stars and the sun, moon, and stars at the same time. Good timing. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. Then, he raised his hand and flicked his finger. Whoosh! A strand of saber chi shot out from Xiao Chen's fingertip. When the saber chi appeared, sun, moon, stars, universe, starry sky, endless divine essence. Before this seemingly ordinary strand of saber chi, they all lost their color and vanished. Pu Ci. The saber chi pierced through the fist light of the 9-veined sovereign Emperor Doyan, sending him flying back while vomiting blood. 9-veined sovereign emperor. The instant Xiao Chen attacked, Suiren Ji and the other doyens clearly saw Xiao Chen's cultivation. a bona fide nine-vein sovereign emperor. They immediately rejoiced. It turned out that Shaoqin had absorbed all the resources in this heavenly divine mountain. Sorry for the offense earlier. After Shaoqin landed, he performed a cupped fist salute to the doyen who vomited blood. It's not really, the grey-clad doyen quickly waved his hand as he spoke. When Shaoqin attacked earlier, the grey-clad doyen seemed to see gods, demons, immortals, and Buddhas sitting quietly behind him, submitting to a treasure saber. He had never seen or heard of such a scene before. The sky was filled with immortals, Buddhas, and countless gods and demons. Any one of them was an unprecedented powerhouse. Every one of them represented a grand epoch. All of them had startling magic skills that could pluck the stars and moon. However, they all submitted to the light of a saber. Be it the ancient Buddhist nations with Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Arhats, and Vajras, the supreme immortal courts with immortals, the 9 layers of the demonic abyss with ancient demonic sovereigns, or the boundless hell, they were no exception. Shaoqin raised his hand and flicked his finger, and the immortals, Buddhas, and ancient gods and demons all submitted.